Welcome to the prestigious Hunter School, a breeding ground for the world's elite protectors. But in a society where absolute power dictates your worth, standing at the bottom is a fate worse than death. And for one boy, the day of reckoning has finally arrived. Meet Ahn Junho, an unawakened loser who would rather waste his life away playing mobile games than face the harsh reality of his inevitable failure. He laughs off his weakness, unaware of the storm brewing right behind him. A brutal blow crashes down on his head, instantly shattering his delusion and sending him crashing to the dirt in agony. Standing over him with furious, piercing eyes is none other than Ha Yunseo. The prestigious awakening exam is literally minutes away, and she is absolutely sick of his pathetic, lazy attitude. But Junho doesn't care. He playfully leans on her, shamelessly admitting his plan to leech off her incredible talent for the rest of his life while he coasts through an easy existence. His lazy daydream is instantly crushed as Yunseo locks him in a brutal, bone-snapping headlock. She won't let him ruin his life, even if she has to choke the laziness right out of him. The brutal spectacle immediately draws the eyes of the whispering crowd. Whispers echo through the courtyard as everyone recognizes the legendary goddess who has returned for special training. Ha Yunseo is an absolute prodigy, having awakened an incredibly rare 5-star class at the mere age of 16. She walks like royalty, leaving everyone else in her dust. But as they look at the boy beside her, the crowd's awe instantly turns to pure disgust. Ahn Junho is nearly 20 years old and still hasn't awakened a single power, a certified piece of trash. They can't believe a useless orphanage kid is allowed to stand beside a literal goddess, but as Yunseo drags him away, the pressure of his looming failure begins to choke the life out of him. The moment of truth has arrived at Test Site 7 of the National Hunter Awakening exam. Today, destiny will be written in stone as hundreds gather to discover their true worth. Strength, agility, magic, or support, the 4 pillars of power that dictate a hunter's survival. The rules are read aloud, but for some, this isn't a test, it's a death sentence. Junho can only stare in sheer boredom. He's failed this exact exam 3 times already, and the mockery of his peers is a song he knows all too well. Deep within the chamber, the massive, glowing evaluation crystal looms. It is the ultimate arbiter, waiting to judge the souls of those who dare touch it. In the tense line, students desperately pray for a combat-ready class. They argue over which path is superior, while Junho stands in absolute silence, his heart hammering against his ribs. Next, Ahn Junho! The loud announcement echoes through the hall. His chest tightens as he steps forward, fully aware that this is his absolute last chance. He walks down the center aisle as vicious laughter erupts all around him. They call him a legendary loser, predicting his inevitable failure and declaring him dead weight before he even starts. At the front stands the gorgeous instructor Ki Yeljin. Her warm, encouraging smile does little to ease the suffocating tension building inside his chest. He approaches the massive, towering crystal. Every step feels like a lead weight, knowing that whatever happens next will define the rest of his miserable life. He reaches out, pressing his palm flat against the cold, jagged surface of the crystal. He closes his eyes, bracing himself for the familiar, painful sting of failure. Suddenly, the crystal ignites. A massive, surging pulse of blinding light erupts from the stone, gasping the entire room into stunned silence. It's glowing blue, a magic type, the crowd whispers in shock. Could the legendary trash of the Academy actually possess high-level magical talent? The light reaches a deafening crescendo, swirling around Junho in a roaring vortex of pure energy. He holds his breath, desperately praying for a miracle. The cruel reality of the system manifests. A single star blinks into existence, mocking him with the lowest tier possible, a pathetic 1-star skill called mud snare. His soul instantly shatters. All that anticipation, all that buildup, only to end up with a useless, bottom-tier class that is practically a death sentence in the dungeons. The room erupts into a roaring chorus of mocking laughter. They point and jeer, utterly delighted to see that the trash remained trash after all. Desperate to salvage the situation, Instructor Yeojin asks him what skill he managed to obtain, but the words die in Junho's throat as he stands there, completely paralyzed. He snaps back to reality, his voice trembling as he tries to process the sheer embarrassment of his failed destiny. Yeojin looks at him with deep pity. To struggle so hard, to wait so many years, only to awaken a pathetic, useless power, it is a fate worse than never awakening at all. She hands him a cheap, low-grade wooden staff, telling him to move on to the practical field test. He takes it, his head bowed in absolute despair as he walks toward his doom. But then a sudden surge of ancient, suffocating energy erupts deep within his soul. A hidden, forbidden prompt flashes in his mind. The hidden conditions of the system have finally been fulfilled. The system activates with terrifying force, granting him 2 legendary game-breaking passives, the Source of Darkness and a mysterious gift. His eyes widen in sheer horror. The power of darkness, the most forbidden, evil magic in existence, now runs through his veins, giving him access to top-tier, world-ending power. And the corruption has only just begun. The system warns him that his pathetic mud snare skill is rapidly mutating, distorting into something sinister. The transformation is complete. His useless earth skill has corrupted into the legendary dark magic known as Rotten Shell. Junho is completely stunned. Corrupted magic? Dark power? This is highly illegal, and if anyone discovers his true nature, he will be hunted down and executed on the spot. But there is no time to think. Ahead lies the terrifying portal to the practical field test, where 50 students must dive into a lethal dungeon to prove their worth. He reviews his newly corrupted skill. Rotten Shell summons the terrifying power of darkness to form a crushing shield around him, an absolute, unstoppable weapon. Stakes couldn't be higher. If he uses this evil magic, he'll survive, but he'll be branded a monster. If he doesn't use it, the beasts in the dungeon will tear him to pieces. "You damn system? What did you do to me?" he screams internally as he steps into the churning purple vortex of the dungeon gate. The spatial energy swallows him whole, tearing him away from the safe world and hurling him directly into the jaws of absolute danger. Wind howls through the ancient towering trees of the dungeon forest. The battle for survival has officially begun. Instantly, chaos erupts. Cruel, bloodthirsty goblins ambush the students from every direction, forcing them into a desperate, bloody struggle for their lives. A pack of muscular, vicious goblins creeps through the shadows, searching for weak, isolated prey to slaughter. Junho crouches low in the thick bushes, holding his breath as the lethal monster stalks just inches away from his hiding spot. He desperately wants to fight, but he spots the surveillance drones buzzing overhead. The Academy is watching every single move. He cannot use his dark magic without being exposed. A drone hovers directly over his position, its camera lens locking onto him. He is trapped, unable to fight and unable to run. Back in the monitoring room, the head examiner sneers in disgust. He points at Junho's screen, furious that the useless one-star student is cowardice incarnate. Yojin tries to defend him, explaining that he is weak and has only a defensive spell, making it impossible for him to hunt alone. The commander cold-heartedly orders his immediate disqualification, but before he can press the button, the monitor flashes violently as a terrifying, unexpected anomaly erupts on the screen. Back in the command center, the air instantly turns ice cold. The technicians freeze in terror as the main surveillance screen suddenly flickers and dies, the drone's vital feed cut off in a fraction of a second by an unseen violent force. Before they can even process the blackout, the system's red emergency lights begin to blare. A massive, unnatural spike of magical energy is detected deep inside the dungeon, shattering all baseline readings and sending a wave of panic straight to the commander's heart. Deep within the dark forest, the shattered remains of the Academy's advanced drone crash into the mud, smoke billowing from its crushed hull. Something in these woods is actively hunting the observers, hiding its lethal moves from the outside world. Elsewhere in the shadows, a terrified student crawls backward in absolute horror. Towering over him is no ordinary beast, but a cloaked, elite goblin vanguard armed with razor-sharp claws, a high-level predator that should never exist in a low-level training ground. The cloaked monster sneers, its yellow eyes gleaming with murderous intelligence as it rallies its bloodthirsty brethren. They are no longer mindless beasts to be hunted. They're an organized, vengeful army ready to butcher their human oppressors. With a deafening roar, the vanguard raises a clawed fist, ordering his goblin horde to slaughter every student in sight and bury them beneath the dirt. A brutal, coordinated massacre is about to begin, and no one is coming to save them. High above, another surveillance drone catches a fleeting glimpse of the massive monster army marching through the clearing, but the warning comes far too late as the beasts lock onto their next mechanical target. With a single explosive burst of raw energy, the goblin leader strikes down the remaining drone, obliterating it into a million glowing fragments. The Academy is now completely blind, leaving the helpless students entirely at the mercy of the slaughter. The shockwave of the destruction rattles the forest, sending the smoking wreckage crashing right at Junho's feet. He clutches his head in disbelief, realizing the critical connection to the outside world has just been violently severed. He stares at the burning metal, a cold realization washing over him. The safety nets are gone, the examiners can no longer see what is happening, and the forest has officially transformed into a lawless graveyard. Screams of pure agony echo through the canopy as the goblin horde ambushes the scattered students. Outnumbered and outmatched, the teenagers are being hunted down one by one in a desperate struggle for survival. Suddenly, the heavy brush parts and the terrifying goblin vanguard steps into Junhan's path. The monster smiles, treating the seemingly defenseless boy like nothing more than a pathetic, trapped rat waiting to be slaughtered. Surrounded on all sides by snarling goblins, Junho is completely cornered. Any normal student would freeze in terror, knowing that a single strike from an elite boss-level monster would instantly end their life. But instead of fear, a dark, dangerous smile spreads across Junho's face. His eyes glow with a sinister purple light. With the cameras destroyed, he no longer has to hide the terrifying forbidden power running through his veins. He raises his hand, channeling the corrupt ancient energy deep within his soul. With the atmosphere heavy with dread, he prepares to unleash the illegal spell, ready to see if this dark magic is as monstrous as the legends claim. He activates Rotten Shell, and the very ground beneath them begins to rot and split open. Swirling vortexes of dark purple energy erupt from the earth, manifesting the horrifying cursed power of the undead. Giant, terrifying skeletal guardians clad in shadows claw their way into the mortal realm, their hollow eye sockets burning with green soul fire. This is not basic defense magic. This is a forbidden nightmare unleashed. Back at headquarters, absolute chaos erupts. Every single student monitor goes pitch black as the alarm systems scream, detecting a terrifying, city-destroying power of darkness, threat level reserved only for legendary monarch monsters. The Goblin Vanguard's arrogant smile instantly vanishes, replaced by sheer, suffocating dread. The creature trembles as it realizes the human standing before it is wielding a dark power far more monstrous than any beast in the dungeon. Before the horde can even attempt to flee, Junho unleashes the full might of his rotten shell. A massive, sweeping wave of dark energy explodes outward, instantly engulfing the battlefield in a violent, inescapable vortex of death. As the dust settles, Junho looks down at his hands, covered in the lingering, sticky residue of the dark magic. It is a disgusting, unsettling sensation, yet he can feel the raw, intoxicating power pulsing through his body. Suddenly, a barrage of system notifications floods his mind, detailing the absolute annihilation of the Goblin Vanguard and its minions. The sheer volume of incoming experience points is unlike anything he has ever witnessed. The elite Goblin Vanguard is brought to its knees, its powerful body entirely paralyzed and decaying under the relentless curse of the dark magic. It stares up at Junho, unable to comprehend how a mere human could possess such godlike, forbidden strength. With a final agonizing shriek, the elite boss disintegrates into ash, completely erased from existence by the dark spell. A massive influx of 6,000 experience points surges into Junho, shattering all his limits. His eyes widen in absolute shock as the system forces his level to skyrocket, shooting him all the way to level 10 in a single moment. It is an impossible feat that would normally take a rookie hunter months of grueling raids to achieve. He ponders his rapid growth, realizing that fodder monsters are no longer worth his time. But a darker question begins to plague his mind. How did a high-level elite monster manage to bypass the Academy's strict security in the first place? Before he can find an answer, bright beams of golden and blue light rain down from the sky, delivering the incredibly rare loot dropped by the slain elite boss. He inspects the legendary item materialized before him, the Butcher's Knuckles, an epic tier weapon packed with massive stat boosts and a devastating combo trigger that could turn him into an unstoppable force. As he equips the powerful claws, a roaring emergency broadcast echoes through the entire forest, ordering all examinees to abort the test immediately and use their teleport scrolls to escape. Junho stands in absolute silence, scanning the area. The lush, vibrant forest has been completely reduced to a scorched, lifeless wasteland of ash and decay, all from a single cast of his corrupted magic. He looks down at the massive, smoldering crater scarring the earth. If anyone from the Academy investigates this area and traces this catastrophic destruction back to him, his life will be forfeit. Knowing he has only seconds before help arrives, Junho quickly unfurls his low-grade teleportation scroll, desperately initiating the escape spell to vanish from the crime scene. Across the ruined test site, massive pillars of blue light shoot into the heavens as the remaining terrified students are forcefully pulled back to safety. The magic circles glow with blinding intensity, sweeping the traumatized teenagers out of the jaws of the suspected catastrophe and back to the Academy's secure grounds. Junho materializes back on the safe side, landing on his feet just as the commanding officers bark orders to shut down the gate and send everyone home immediately. Commander's face is pale with grim determination, knowing that if a legendary monarch-class entity has truly breached the Academy, even their strongest hunters won't stand a chance. But as the monitors recalibrate, the technicians gasp. The massive, city-threatening dark signature has suddenly and completely vanished from the grid without a trace. The commander's eyes widen in sheer horror as a terrifying theory takes root in his mind. If the dark entity did not die inside the dungeon, did it somehow escape into the human world? Sensing the impending panic, Instructor Yojin immediately contacts High Command, ordering an absolute lockdown of the school's barrier to trap whatever monster might have slipped through. She rushes over to the arriving students, her eyes locked onto Junho as she desperately asks if he is unharmed after the sudden violent termination of the exam. Junho casually brushes off her concern, playing the part of the weak, useless one-star student who barely survived, hiding his terrifying true power behind a sheepish grin. As they leave the academy grounds, Junho walks alongside Yunseo, listening to the rumors of the emergency shutdown. He knows the entire school is hunting for a phantom monster that is actually walking right next to them. Yunseo glances at him with deep, quiet concern, assuming his silent attitude is a result of trauma from failing his test and barely escaping the dungeon with his life. She looks him dead in the eye and tells him that his weak, defensive-type magic is completely useless for solo hunting, demanding that he join her elite guild to survive. Junho playfully waves her off, refusing her generous offer. He knows he can never party with anyone. The moment he casts his corrupted dark magic in front of another hunter, his secret will be exposed to the world. But Yunseo refuses to take no for an answer, pointing her finger aggressively and ordering him to meet her at the West Gate tomorrow morning, completely ignoring his desperate protests. As she walks away, Junho can only scream her name in pure comedic despair, completely helpless against the headstrong goddess who is forcing him back into the spotlight. Back in his room, Junho clutches his head in agony, desperately racking his brain for any believable excuse, even a fake stomachache, to avoid showing up to the guild raid tomorrow. But he quickly realizes that Yunseo would drag him out of bed by his hair anyway. Just as despair begins to take over, a brilliant, dangerous idea sparks in his mind. He stands before the towering futuristic Central Exchange building, a cunning smirk playing on his lips. If he can buy gear that comes with prepackaged skills, he can finally hide his forbidden dark magic behind a perfect, legitimate disguise. Junho steps into the Central Exchange with a cunning plan. If he can acquire gear prepackaged with a basic defensive skill like Mud Snare, he can disguise his horrifying dark magic as a weak, legitimate spell. This perfect masquerade is his only way to hunt without raising suspicion. But first, he needs to sell off his rare loot. As he enters, a sleek, senior saleswoman greets him with a professional smile. Junho immediately asks for any weapon or accessory imbued with the Mud Snare skill, hoping to keep his search simple and fast. But her warm demeanor instantly turns condescending. Assuming he is just a naive, weak rookie, she tells him that low-tier defensive skills are a waste of time, trying to push expensive, higher-level equipment instead. Junho politely declines, insisting on simple, low-level gear he can use right away. Annoyed by what she perceives as a penniless waste of her time, her patience snaps and she cold-heartedly calls for someone else to deal with him. Walking away in a huff, the elitist saleswoman mutters about wasting her breath on a rookie and dumps Junho onto a new recruit. Junho is left standing in awkward silence, completely brushed off because of his unassuming appearance. From the office steps Yang Seola, a sweet and polite rookie who greets Junho with a warm, genuine smile. Unlike her dismissive senior, she treats him with absolute respect, ready to help him find exactly what he needs. Seola patiently guides him through the displays, letting him test various weapons. To keep up his weak, harmless disguise, Junho intentionally struggles to lift a massive hammer, playing the part of a fragile, low-rank hunter to perfection. After browsing, he chooses a simple, low-grade ring carrying the exact Mud Snare skill. Thanking her for her patience, Junho prepares to move to the next phase of his plan. With his disguise secured, Junho casually asks where he can sell some hunting spoils. Seola happily offers to lead him to the appraiser's office, eager to assist her first real customer of the day. They enter a private office where the exchange's veteran head appraiser sits behind a desk. He sighs, expecting nothing more than trivial, low-tier monster drops from a seemingly broke rookie. But his boredom instantly vanishes as Junho places the golden claws dropped by the slain elite goblin Vanguard onto the table, the weapon's raw, high-tier aura radiating throughout the room. The appraiser activates his appraisal skill and his eyes widen in absolute shock. It is an epic-grade agility weapon with exceptional stat rolls and 3 empty slots, making it a masterpiece perfect for high-paying beginners. Sensing a massive profit, the appraiser eagerly asks Junho how much he wants for it. Playing his part beautifully, Junho scratches his head with a sheepish grin, requesting the highest possible price. The appraiser frantically instructs Seola to serve Junho tea and make him comfortable while he rushes out to contact a wealthy, exclusive buyer, completely treating the weak rookie like a VIP. While Seola politely pours tea for the relaxed teenager, the manager eagerly negotiates over the phone with a wealthy guild leader looking to buy top-tier gear for his son. Manager bursts back in, ecstatic, and announces that the item has been sold for a staggering 50,000 crystals, leaving Junho with a massive net profit of 46,000 crystals after commission. Seola's jaw drops in absolute shock. The quiet, unassuming customer she helped is actually an elite hunter capable of acquiring high-grade legendary gear. Seizing the momentum, Junho casually mentions that he wants to use his new fortune to purchase more equipment. The manager's face lights up with greed, eagerly offering to show him the store's most premium catalog. Back in the lobby, the arrogant senior saleswoman proudly boasts to her colleagues about dumping the useless kid, laughing about how she avoided wasting her valuable time. But her smug expression instantly freezes as she sees the exchange manager personally escorting Junho and Seola down the VIP corridor with the utmost respect. Her colleagues quickly break the news, revealing that the useless customer just sold an epic weapon for 50,000 crystals and is now on a massive shopping spree. A bolt of pure shock and horror strikes her soul. She has just handed the biggest sale of the month and a life-changing commission directly to a rookie on a silver platter. Gripped by pure agonizing despair, she can only scream internally over the lost incentive, realizing her arrogance has cost her a fortune. Outside the exchange, Seola bows deeply to Junho, begging him to contact her directly for all his future trades, having secured a powerful, wealthy regular. She bids him farewell with a sweet, memorable smile, introducing herself as Yang Seola, leaving Junho feeling accomplished as he heads home. Next day, Junho walks through the bustling city streets whistling a cheerful tune, fully equipped in his newly purchased rogue gear. He recalls his test from the previous night, which confirmed that his gear skills are completely unaffected by his corrupt dark class, ensuring his cover is airtight. Spotting a familiar golden-haired figure in the crowd, he loudly waves his hand and calls out Ha Yunseo's name, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. Yunseo turns around, her sharp, piercing eyes locking onto him with a stern, expectant gaze. Behind her stand the elite members of her guild, radiating an intimidating aura of power that commands respect from the crowd. Formidable warriors, seasoned berserkers, and high-ranked priests stand together, representing the peak of guild organization. Yunseo politely introduces her party members, expecting Junho to be impressed by their highly coordinated team structure. But the atmosphere instantly turns hostile as two of the male members, including a high-ranking mage, glare down at Junho with icy disdain. Junho breaks into a nervous sweat, completely baffled by their intense, murderous glares, realizing they see him as a pathetic parasite latching onto their goddess. The arrogant mage Jo Sung-hoon deliberately ignores Junho, turning to Yunseo to smugly ask about her upcoming second-class advancement. Junho's eyes widen in surprise as he realizes Yunseo is already nearing level 60, a testament to her genius 5-star class. Sensing an opportunity to show off, Sung-hoon proudly produces a glowing, rare potion, claiming he pulled strings to get her a little gift. The other guild members gasp in awe, recognizing it as a high-grade speed potion that permanently boosts stats, an incredibly rare and expensive consumable. Sung-hoon smugly notes that it cost him 20,000 crystals, acting as though the massive fortune is pocket change to a high-ranking hunter like himself. But Yunseo coolly rejects the offer, waving her hand and telling him to keep the gift, completely deflating his massive ego in front of the party. She dismisses him outright, turning back to Junho and stating they need to get moving, leaving a shocked and humiliated Sung-hoon behind. Infuriated by the rejection, Sung-hoon's temper flares, and he aggressively points at Junho, demanding to know why Yunseo is wasting her time with trash. Yunseo's eyes flare with cold fury as she turns back, sternly ordering Sung-hoon to watch his mouth. But Sung-hoon sneers, doubling down on his arrogance, claiming it is an indisputable fact that one-star hunters are useless trash destined to stay at the bottom forever. Junho sighs in pure exhaustion, completely annoyed by the childish drama and wishing he could just drown this arrogant fool in corrupt dark magic. The priestess of the guild desperately tries to pull Sung-hoon back, begging him to drop it and leave before he causes a scene. But Sung-hoon refuses to back down, mockingly sneering that Junho won't be able to afford a single bottle of that potion in his entire life, while Junho casually dismisses his loud barking. Sung-hoon's face twists with rage as he barks at the beggar, asking if he has a death wish for mocking a high-ranking hunter. The armored warrior behind him joins in, mockingly challenging Junho to prove he has anything better, promising to grovel on his knees if he does. With a mocking smirk, Junho casually pulls out a glowing, legendary speed potion of his own, telling Sung-hoon to get ready to grovel as he presents the ultimate gift to a stunned Yunseo. Ha Yunseo's breath hitches as she stares down at the blinding glow of the Vanguard's badge, her mind reeling at the impossible high-tier status of the legendary item. It is an epic-grade masterpiece, a treasure whose permanent stat-boosting power defies everything she knows about the world. Sung-hoon and his companions freeze in absolute gut-wrenching horror, their smug expressions shattering instantly as the truth sinks in. A permanent boost of 100 stats is an absolute game-breaker, a divine cheat that turns their own petty offering into complete trash. Realizing the sheer astronomical value of what she is holding, Yunseo hesitates, but Junho only offers a casual shrug and a sheepish grin. He plays it off as a worthless trinket he just happened to find lying around the house, hiding his true world-bending power behind a perfect mask of humility. The rest of the guild erupts in a frantic, breathless shouting, completely consumed by raw curiosity and desperate to witness the artifact's true magic. The air itself begins to crackle and vibrate with intense golden pressure, signaling the awakening of an ancient power. Brilliant, swirling bands of celestial light explode outward, wrapping around Yunseo in a radiant cocoon of pure energy. Her companions watch in stunned silence as the divine power fuses directly into her soul, raising her to a completely different realm of strength. The dazzling aura fades, leaving Yunseo basking in the intoxicating rush of her newly amplified power as her stats skyrocket. While the guild's priestess squeals in starry-eyed, hysterical adoration, Sung-hoon's face twists into a mask of pure, bitter humiliation. Desperate to save his shattered ego, Sung-hoon screams in denial, wildly accusing Junho of being a filthy thief who must have stolen such a legendary relic. But Junho merely smiles, his eyes turning cold as he calmly demands that the arrogant mage honor his bet and grovel. Before Sung-hoon can bark another insult, Yunseo's voice cuts through the air like an icy blade, her sharp gaze locking onto him. She demands he fulfill his promise and apologize to Junho immediately, leaving the proud mage with absolutely nowhere to run. A heavy, suffocating silence falls over the group as Sung-hoon's allies slowly and awkwardly step back, completely abandoning him to his fate. Left entirely isolated, his pales as he realizes his own reckless arrogance has backed him into a humiliating corner. Pride clashing violently with survival, Sung-hoon grits his teeth so hard they nearly shatter, his body trembling with intense fury. With a sickening thud, his knees buckle and hit the cold ground, forcing him to submit to the very trash he despised. In a final devastating blow to his dignity, Sung-hoon slams his forehead against the dirt, offering a pathetic, groveling apology. Towering above him, Junho looks down with a cold, triumphant smirk, thoroughly enjoying the sweet taste of absolute ruin. With a cheerful, mocking wave, Junho dismisses the pathetic display, casually announcing that he is taking his leave. Leaving a fuming, broken Sung-hoon eating the dirt, he strolls away as if he hadn't just completely shattered a high-ranking hunter's life. As they walk down the quiet street, Yunseo bows her head in deep regret, softly apologizing for dragging him into her guild's toxic drama. But Junho just waves his hand with an easygoing grin, assuring her that everything is perfectly fine. On the outside, Junho maintains his bright, harmless rookie facade to keep her at ease, but internally, a desperate plea screams in his mind. He needs this overbearing goddess to leave so he can finally begin his secret dark magic training. Misunderstanding his easygoing attitude as quiet resignation, Yunseo clenches her fists and begs him not to give up on his hunter path. Junho can only offer a wry smile, harboring a silent, dangerous secret that she is not yet ready to comprehend. Determined to help him grow, Yunseo suddenly stops and pulls out a bound leather book from her inventory, presenting it to him. She insists that he must take this and learn its power the moment his level increases. Junho's eyes widen slightly as he flips open the pages, instantly recognizing the rare mystical purple aura radiating from the paper. These are elite-grade skill books, treasures that must have cost her an absolute fortune to acquire. A genuine, warm smile breaks across Junho's face as he claps the book shut, deeply touched by her fierce, unwavering support. He gladly accepts the precious gifts, adding another layer of versatility to his rapidly growing hidden arsenal. The next destination looms in grim contrast, the dreaded gloomy graveyard, a desolate wasteland of crooked tombstones shrouded in a thick, choking fog. Crows circle overhead like harbingers of death, warning all living souls to turn back. Suddenly, the decayed earth ruptures violently as rotting skeletal hands claw their way out of the dirt. A horde of bloodthirsty, glowing-eyed ghouls emerges from the shadows, shrieking in mindless hunger as they lock onto their prey. Before the monsters can even take a step, a blinding flash of azure energy cuts through the gloom, slicing the undead cleanly in half. In a split second, the terrifying horde is reduced to nothing but dissolving ash and shattered bone. Yunseo stands majestically with her glowing bow raised, her absolute dominance over the battlefield on full display. Sitting comfortably on a nearby rock, Junho cheers her on with comical enthusiasm, playing his role of the useless leech to perfection. But beneath his cheering facade, Junho is dying of sheer boredom, realizing these low-level monsters offer absolutely zero experience points for his actual level. He desperately racks his brain, searching for any possible way to slip away and hunt alone. Suddenly, the sharp ring of a communicator breaks the eerie silence of the graveyard, and Yunseo quickly answers it. Her breath hitches as an urgent voice delivers shocking news. The legendary field boss, the corrupted lich, is about to spawn. On the other end of the line, the guild's elite members gather in a panic, their eyes wide with intense greed and anticipation. They desperately need Yunseo's high-tier archery skills to conquer this incredibly rare high-reward raid. The guild's priestess pleads through the receiver, explaining that this boss drops rare magic gear that could elevate their entire team. Beside her, the other warriors nod in eager agreement, desperate to secure the legendary loot. Sung-hoon joins the call with a smug, competitive grin, boasting about how this massive boss kill will solidify his standing. He demands to know if Yunseo is coming, knowing her presence is the key to their absolute victory. Yunseo remains silent, her brow furrowed in deep conflict as she looks back at Junho, unwilling to abandon him in a dangerous graveyard. She knows leaving a seemingly weak, one-star rookie alone is an immense risk. Sensing his golden opportunity has finally arrived, Junho quickly steps in, waving his hand and urging her to go ahead. He insists he will be perfectly fine waiting in the safe zone, hiding his predatory anticipation behind a sheepish grin. Seeing his insistence, Yunseo reluctantly sighs and yields, strictly ordering him to stay put in the safe zone and absolutely not move. She turns and prepares to leap toward the boss chamber, still worried for his safety. Flashing a bright, cartoonish OK sign, Junho bids her a cheerful farewell, watching as she vaults over the rocky cliffs with incredible speed. The moment her figure disappears into the fog, the comical rookie facade completely vanishes. A cold, sinister smirk plays on Junho's lips as he stands alone in the desolate graveyard, his eyes flashing with a dangerous purple light. With the annoying onlookers finally gone, the true predator of this dungeon is ready to unleash his wrath. As he strides deeper into the fog, Junho reflects on his secret corrupt class and the unique passive skill he possesses. Mysterious Gift allows him to cast any dark magic without consuming a single drop of mana once a week, a deadly cheat. He stretches his arms with a sigh, slightly annoyed that his current low level restricts him to only 3 active skill slots. He will have to wait before he can utilize the powerful skills Yunseo just gifted him, but for now, his current arsenal is more than enough. Deep within the gloomy graveyard, the air grows increasingly cold and rancid as high-level undead roam the desolate terrain. Mindless skeletons clad in tattered armor wander the fog, searching for any foolish humans to tear apart. A terrifying skeletal warrior clad in dark, jagged armor steps out from the shadows, its bared teeth and hollow, red eyes radiating a murderous intent. This dungeon is a high-difficulty death trap where a single mistake means instant death. But the danger does not stop the greedy hunters. High on a rocky cliff overlooking the inner ruins, another adventuring party stands vigilant. They watch the distant battlefield with bated breath, their hearts racing as the raid unfolds. Suddenly, a massive, cataclysmic blast of fire magic erupts in the distance, illuminating the dark sky in a violent explosion of red and gold. The sheer destructive force of the spell sends shockwaves rippling through the entire graveyard. The cliffside party gasps in absolute shock, shielded by the sheer distance but deeply intimidated by the raw power of the spell. They realize another highly coordinated raid team must have already bypassed them to claim the boss. Peering closer through the smoke, the cloaked leader's eyes widen in terror as he recognizes the crests of the legendary hunters. It is Ha Yunseo and Jo Sung-hoon from the Lion of Purge Guild, a powerhouse team among the absolute top in the country. Down in the ruins, the battle rages with terrifying intensity as the Lion of Purge Guild tears through the undead army. Sung-hoon leads the charge with a crazed, triumphant roar, declaring that the legendary boss's loot belongs to him alone. Channeling his immense magical reserves, Sung-hoon unleashes a devastating torrent of brilliant golden light, vaporizing a dozen skeletal soldiers in a single roaring blast. His arrogance reaches its peak as he flaunts his destructive power. Nearby, Yunseo moves like a deadly wind, her speed and agility drastically enhanced by the legendary Vanguard's badge. Her guildmates watch in awe as she fires a rapid barrage of energy arrows, completely obliterating everything in her path. But as the guild fights their way through the main ruins, they remain completely oblivious to the towering shadow rising in the inner depths. The ruined tower of the gloomy graveyard looms silently, bathed in an eerie green glow. High above the tower's peak, the fabric of space itself begins to tear and distort, crackling with violent currents of purple energy. A massive, swirling spatial vortex opens, pulsating with a dark, forbidden magic. Stepping casually out of the spatial rift, Junho lands softly on the stone floor, a cocky smirk plastered across his face. Using forbidden dark spatial magic, he has bypassed the entire dungeon and arrived at the boss chamber in an instant. From the dark shadows of the tower, a towering, terrifying figure rises. The Corrupted Lich, a legendary boss radiating an aura of absolute death. Its eyes burn with a demonic red light as it prepares to annihilate the intruder. Instead of trembling in fear, Junho casually raises a gloved hand and waves with a light-hearted, mocking greeting. He stands completely unfazed before the Lord of Death, ready to show this monster the true meaning of terror. Before the Lich can even react, Junho unleashes a massive roaring torrent of volatile green flame, engulfing the entire chamber in a cataclysmic explosion. The true hidden power of the Dark Mage has finally been unleashed. As the devastating blast of corrupted magic consumes the boss, the very foundation of the tower trembles under the weight of his absolute power. With the legendary boss cornered in seconds, Junho's secret hunt has only just begun. The monstrous corrupted lich towers in the darkness, its hollow eyes burning with ancient hatred as it sneers at the foolish human who dared invade its sacred chamber alone. The sheer weight of its aura is enough to crush an ordinary hunter, yet the battle is about to take a shocking turn. Junho doesn't flinch. Instead, a wicked cold smile stretches across his face as the dark desire for absolute monopoly takes over. He has no intention of sharing this legendary prey or its glorious treasures with anyone else. With a silent incantation, he activates his corrupt passive, corrupting the elite-grade skillbook he received into a forbidden, devastating dark magic. A catastrophic wave of purple energy begins to swirl around his raised hand, preparing to bring down the heavens. In an instant, the skies above the ruined tower rupture, raining down a cataclysmic barrage of blazing purple meteors directly onto the helpless undead lord. The sheer scale of the destruction is absolute, leaving no room for escape. The devastating bombardment of corrupt magic tears through the ancient chamber, completely vaporizing the Lich's defenses in a matter of seconds. Under the weight of such overwhelming force, even a legendary boss is reduced to a helpless target. A violent, blinding explosion of purple magic erupts from the peak of the ruined tower, sending massive shockwaves trembling through the entire dungeon. The raw destructive power is so intense that the ancient stone structure threatens to collapse entirely. Caught dead center in the relentless storm of dark meteors, the Lord of Death shatters, its physical form utterly torn apart by the unstoppable barrage. There is no counterplay, no desperate struggle, only absolute annihilation. As the smoke clears, Junho stands amidst the ruins with a casual smirk, while an endless stream of defeat notifications floods his senses, marking the death of every last monster in the area. The massive haul of experience is beyond anything he could have imagined. The ultimate milestone has finally been reached. A brilliant flash of light signals his ascension to level 30, unlocking the long-awaited gateway to his first official class advancement. The spoils of war rain down in a dazzling display of epic-grade loot, from mystical pendants to rare dark soulstones that will fetch an absolute fortune. But among the legendary treasures, one specific item immediately catches his sharp gaze. Ignoring the normal trade channels, Junho decides to absorb the Cursed Lich's badge directly into his own soul, willing to sacrifice a portion of his vital force for a far greater permanent power-up. The moment the dark artifact fuses with his body, a mysterious system alert chimes in his mind, recognizing the incredibly rare catalyst. The true potential of this stolen artifact is about to be revealed. A thrill of pure excitement courses through him as he realizes this badge is the legendary near-impossible key required to unlock an ultra-rare hidden job. Faced with the choice of a lifetime, Junho doesn't hesitate. He sets his sights on the ultimate path of the god of all attribute magic, a title of sheer dominance that eclipses all others. Meanwhile, on the high cliffs overlooking the ruins, the secondary hunter party is nearly blown off their feet as the violent shockwave of Junho's magic washes over them in a terrifying display of raw power. Shaken to their very core by the unbelievable surge of magical energy, the hunters realize they are completely outclassed and make the desperate, frantic decision to pull back before they get caught in the crossfire. The panic-stricken party leader screams at his comrades to abandon their greed, knowing that staying a second longer in the presence of such a terrifying entity means certain agonizing death. Back in the safety of the outer zones, Yunseo anxiously pulls out her communicator to warn a rookie companion, only to find a casual text from Junho stating he has already left the area. Completely oblivious to the panic he has caused, Junho arrives at the towering, majestic gates of the regional advancement hall, ready to finally claim his true destiny. He steps into the grand, quiet lobby of the hall, finding the massive sanctuary strangely empty, as if the heavens themselves cleared the way for his quiet arrival. Sitting behind the reception desk is a stern, elegant woman who adjusts her glasses, looking up with mild curiosity as she asks if he is here to undertake his first-class advancement. He casually begins inputting his personal data into the registration system, completely unaware of the monstrous hidden power lurking beneath his unassuming rookie facade. Internally dismissive of an 18-year-old only just now reaching his first advancement, she assumes he's a slow learner and points him toward the standard mage's chamber. Junho enters the glowing advancement chamber, surrounded by floating crystal pillars pulsing with pure, ancient energy designed to test and elevate a hunter's soul. Meanwhile, inside a secure briefing room, elite investigators gather in a sweat, frantically reporting that the gloomy graveyard dungeon has suddenly spiked to a catastrophic Monarch-class threat level. The shocking revelation of two high-level anomalies appearing back-to-back in a single week sends a chill of dread through the seasoned staff, threatening to alert the highest authorities in the association. With the situation spiraling rapidly out of control, the desperate higher-ups have bypassed all standard protocols and summoned the country's ultimate secret weapon, the legendary elite force known only as the Shadow. Back inside the chamber, the system interface flashes, presenting Junho with his two stark options, the dangerous A-rank spectral shaman or the impossible S-rank god of all attribute magic. Without a single trace of fear, Junho presses his hand against the screen, choosing the brutal S-rank trial that would break any ordinary hunter, cementing his path to godhood. With his epic quest officially locked in, Junho confidently strides down the stone steps, his heart pounding with predatory excitement for the trial ahead. He smiles at the 3-day time limit, realizing he has more than enough time to systematically dismantle this legendary trial on his own terms. Offering a polite, cheerful wave to the staff member on his way out, he easily slips back into his harmless rookie persona, leaving no trace of his dark ambition behind. But back at the ruined battlefield of the gloomy graveyard, the aftermath of his secret hunt has left a permanent scar on the earth, drawing dangerous eyes to the scene. Standing amidst the smoldering debris, a mysterious, powerful figure cloaked in darkness surveys the wreckage, sensing the lingering trace of a terrifying, unfamiliar presence. Whispering in hushed, terrified tones, the on-site guards warn each other to watch their words, knowing that the identity and actions of the Shadow are classified at the highest level of national security. This legendary Black Ops squad is comprised entirely of mutants with hidden classes who wield the forbidden power of darkness to handle the state's most lethal secret disasters. As the commander of this lethal squad steps forward, adjusting her glowing glasses, her true identity is revealed. She is the very same clerk who just processed Junho's registration. Known to the world as the Tempest of Shadows, she stands as a beacon of absolute authority, her sharp senses locking onto a residual energy that defies all known logic. She demands answers from her investigators, frustrated that the mysterious entity who completely pulverized a legendary dungeon boss vanished without leaving a single shred of physical evidence behind. The senior investigator grimly notes that these bizarre, violent phenomena inside local dungeons have been multiplying at an alarming rate, hinting at an impending world-ending disaster. Realizing the severity of the situation, the Tempest of Shadows prepares to request immediate, massive reinforcements from headquarters to track down this elusive wildcard. But the investigator hesitates, raising a chilling, unthinkable question. Could this absolute destruction be the work of a rogue human rather than a monster? The Tempest of Shadows immediately shuts down the theory, glaring intensely as she points out the sheer impossibility of another human mutant hiding under their noses. She confidently declares that a fragile human body could never possibly survive the immense, soul-crushing toll of wielding such a high level of dark energy without being consumed. Yet, the lingering dread remains. If a monster of this caliber is truly roaming free, an unprecedented catastrophe could strike the city at any moment. Safe inside his own quiet home, Junho peerlessly looks out his window, completely relaxed and finding a strange comfort in the dark, cramped privacy of his room. Sitting cross-legged on his bed, he prepares to use the skill books Yunseo gave him, triggering an automatic dark fusion between Arcane Shield and his own forbidden Rotten Shell. The ancient powers meld seamlessly within his soul, culminating in a sinister, legendary passive skill known as the Corrupted Blessing.
A satisfied smirk plays on his lips as he realizes he can now combine regular magic with dark magic to forge custom skills, rendering standard physical attacks completely useless against him.
With his second skill book successfully consumed, he unlocks Elemental Mastery of Earth, completing his ultimate defensive arsenal and setting the stage for his descent into the S-rank trial. With his newly fused Dark Magic Absolute and his inventory brimming, Junho checks his skill interface, noting with a predatory grin that his fusion skills have left his slot allocation wide open for even more devastating combinations. Fill these empty slots with standard elements he can corrupt later, he sets his sights on the towering Central Exchange, the city's premier hub for high-grade hunter transactions. Walking into the luxurious lobby with a calm, measured stride, Junho maintains his unassuming rookie persona, completely hiding the world-shaking power swirling within his soul. As he enters, one of the elite receptionists instantly recognizes his face, her eyes lighting up as she remembers the mysterious big spender who walked through their doors last time. Brushing off her eager gaze, Junho politely asks if Miss Seola is available, his singular focus on the trustworthy clerk who previously helped him secure his massive fortunes. The receptionist's smile falters as she quickly interjects, explaining that Seola is currently busy and eagerly offering to handle his transaction herself with her utmost personal attention. But Junho has no interest in dealing with a stranger. With a cool, dismissive wave, he turns on his heel, leaving the receptionist frozen in utter shock and rejection. Fuming with silent rage, the receptionist glares at his departing back, her pride deeply wounded by his cold refusal and her jealousy towards Seola reaching a boiling point. Before her anger can erupt, Seola's familiar voice echoes down the hallway, her face lighting up with genuine surprise as she spots Junho in her section. Gasping for breath, Seola rushes toward him at full speed, her heart racing as she abandons all professional decorum just to ensure she doesn't miss him. Clutching her knees to catch her breath, she frantically apologizes for the delay, explaining she ran all the way from her break the moment she heard he had returned. Touched by her unwavering dedication, Junho casually offers to treat her to a meal to make up for the trouble, completely ignoring the murderous, envious glare of the other receptionist nearby. He lays out his prize on the negotiation table, 2 high-grade skill books to sell, requesting powerful mage skills in return to bolster his versatile arsenal. The transaction is so massive that the exchange manager himself oversees it, nodding in grave approval and assigning Seola to handle this highly classified trade. But as the manager stares at the rare books, a sinister suspicion takes root in his mind. A rookie bringing in epic weapons and unique skill books back-to-back demands a thorough, covert investigation. Oblivious to the shadows gathering behind him, Junho enjoys a quiet dinner with Seola, the warm atmosphere a stark contrast to the bloody battlefields he usually treads. When the bill arrives, Junho raises his hand to pay, only for Seola to quickly stop him with a bright smile, proudly announcing that she has already taken care of the tab. Junho protests, but Seola firmly shakes her head, her eyes shining with deep gratitude as she insists she has a very special reason for wanting to treat him tonight. Refusing to reveal her secret, she playfully pushes him out the door, laughing off his curiosity and urging him to head home before the night grows too cold. Standing on the busy city street, Junho offers to walk her to her destination, but Seola insists on taking a taxi, bidding him a warm farewell as the headlights cut through the dark. As the taxi pulls away into the night, Seola settles into the back seat, quietly directing the driver to head straight to the regional city hospital. Arriving at the sterile ward, she looks down at her bedridden father with a tearful, loving smile, knowing that Junho's massive transactions earned her a bonus large enough to finally cover his life-saving treatments. Her heart overflows with relief as she wipes away a tear of joy, completely unaware of the terrifying catastrophe about to shatter the city's fragile peace. Without warning, a monstrous impact shatters the night. The taxi is violently crushed under a sudden, colossal force, glass and metal exploding in a split second. Trapped in the wrecked vehicle, Seola gasps in horror as blood drips onto her face, her hunter instinct screaming that this is no ordinary accident. On the road ahead, the fabric of space ruptures, revealing a massive swirling dimensional rift as bloodthirsty monsters pour directly into the heart of the civilian safe zone. A grotesque beast lands heavily on another car, crushing the roof flat in a terrifying display of raw power as panic paralyzes the screaming streets. Fighting through the pain, Seola desperately slams her hand against the jammed taxi door, knowing she will be torn to pieces if she remains trapped. With a final surge of adrenaline, she forces her way out of the shattered frame, tumbling desperately onto the cold, hard asphalt of the ruined street. She hits the ground hard, her body bruised and battered, but there is no time to rest as the deafening roars of the invading horde echo all around her. Struggling to her feet, her eyes widen in absolute disbelief, a high-level dungeon break has occurred in the middle of a heavily guarded safe zone, defying all logic. Before she can run, a towering, nightmarish beast looms over her, its jaws dripping with fresh blood as it locks its glowing red eyes onto its helpless prey. Just as the monster prepares to strike, a blinding vortex of blue energy ruptures the sky above, signaling the arrival of a powerful savior descending from the heavens. From the shadows, a sinister grin cuts through the darkness, a dark pendant glowing with malice as a mysterious force watches the unfolding chaos with sadistic delight. Desperate to defend herself, Seola unleashes her one-star mage spells, but the flames merely tickle the beast's thick hide, leaving her completely defenseless against its counterattack. The monster lunges forward with a lethal claw, ready to slice her in half as Seola cowers in terror, bracing for her inevitable demise. Suddenly, a flashing blade of pure light cuts through the darkness, an elite armored hunter intervening with a spectacular lightning-fast strike. With a single fluid motion of his massive greatsword, the armored warrior decapitates the beast, sending its severed head flying through the air as black blood splatters the road. Standing defensively in front of her, the heroic hunter checks on her condition, urging her to find a safe place to hide before the situation escalates further. But as they look around, the ground beneath them turns into a corrupted, crimson wasteland. The dungeon is rapidly merging with reality, transforming the city into a living hell. The armored hunter grips his sword with white knuckles, realizing with dread that a low-level hunter like Seola stands absolutely zero chance of surviving this cataclysm. Remembering the grave warnings of the association's administrators, he realizes this disaster is far worse than anyone anticipated, a harbinger of total annihilation. Suddenly, a massive clawed hand rips through the smoke, attacking with blinding speed to catch the defender completely off guard. Hunter barely parries the blow, his heavy blade clashing against the dark claw in a violent shower of sparks and shattered concrete. Blown backward by the sheer kinetic force, the armored warrior digs his boots into the shattered earth, his eyes locking onto a new, terrifying adversary. Standing amidst the corruption is a powerful mutant, his arms swollen with pulsing blue veins and dark energy, looking down at the human hunter with pure contempt. The creature sneers, refusing to be labeled a mere mutant, proudly declaring himself a chosen of the forbidden power of darkness. Gritting his teeth, the hunter prepares for the fight of his life, realizing he is facing a terrifying foe wielding powers that defy the laws of humanity. With a fierce battle cry, the armored hunter charges forward, channeling every ounce of his aura into his blade for a desperate life-or-death strike. The two forces collide in a cataclysmic explosion of magical energy, shattering the street and leaving the fate of the city hanging by a single desperate thread. The elite defender's jaw tightens as absolute terror takes hold. He realizes in an instant that the monstrosity before him possesses a devastating power that surpasses a third advancement rank, making it a force humanity was never meant to clash with. Before he can even formulate a defensive plan, the mutant channels a concentrated torrent of abyssal mana right into the ground beneath their feet, sealing the area in a dark trap. The darkness rises, enveloping the entire battlefield in a suffocating shroud of pure malice as the creature declares this corrupted zone to be his personal domain of slaughter. Tendrils of dark, liquid-like shadows spiral upward, completely draining the life force of the surrounding environment to fuel the beast's insatiable bloodlust. With a sadistic roar, the monster lunges forward with unmatched speed, declaring that ordinary human defenders are absolutely no match for his godlike strength. The devastating kick connects with a violent shockwave, instantly shattering the elite hunter's armored guard and sending him flying back like a broken doll. A sickening spray of crimson blood paints the ruined streets, signaling the absolute defeat of the city's heroic protector. Drunk on his newly acquired godlike power, the mutant cackles hysterically into the night sky, completely overwhelmed by the explosive surge of energy flowing through his veins. He can feel it. The very earth of this corrupted domain is feeding him a limitless, dark power that wells up within his soul without end. But his arrogant laughter is instantly cut short when the dark pendant around his neck burns with a terrifying, icy glow, sending a shiver of pure terror down his spine as a cold, divine voice commands him to watch his tongue. Space itself fractures in a violet electrical haze as the supreme entity reminds its pathetic puppet that his power is merely a borrowed gift, one that can be stripped away in a heartbeat. Trembling in absolute submission, the beastly warrior stares into the colossal abyss opening above him, fully aware of his utter insignificance. From the swirling dark rift, a terrifying demonic god looms, demanding that the mutant prove his ultimate worth by bringing complete and utter destruction to this world. Dropping to his knees, the creature barks his desperate obedience, eager to appease his horrific master by turning the entire city into a graveyard. Meanwhile, in the quiet depths of a nearby building, a calm hand pushes open a simple curtain door, completely detached from the apocalyptic chaos unfolding outside. Junho steps calmly out of the restroom, completely unaware that his peaceful evening is about to collide head-on with a nightmarish invasion. In the ruined streets, a bloodthirsty scout monster feasts on the fallen, its glowing red eyes searching for the next target to rip to shreds. Helpless bodies of innocent civilians litter the cracked asphalt, a grim testament to the overwhelming savagery of the sudden dungeon break. Blood pools around the head of another innocent victim, a reminder of the brutal reality of a world where the weak are slaughtered without mercy. Sensing a new presence, the grotesque beast suddenly snaps its neck toward the corridor, its feral instincts locking onto the lone hunter walking into the light. With a deafening shriek, the monster leaps through the air, its lethal claws extended to slice the unsuspecting rookie into pieces. But the moment its heavy claws are about to strike, the ground violently shatters as a dormant magic activates. Before the beast can even register what is happening, a massive jagged pillar of solid earth erupts from the floor, skewering its target with lethal precision. The colossal spike towers over the battlefield, completely crushing the monster's vital organ in a single effortless display of defense. A brilliant interface manifests, confirming that his freshly integrated elemental earth mastery has unlocked a terrifying new defensive skill, Thorn Wall. Unsheathing his sleek new weapon, Junho watches the dark energies swirl around his hand, deeply satisfied that his heavy investment in elemental mastery is already paying off. Pushing past the heavy exit doors, he steps directly into the ruined, red-tinted street, ready to test his legendary skills against the invading horde. He surveys the devastation, noting the massive, writhing roots of the dungeon corruption that have completely swallowed the urban landscape. But his investigation is interrupted as the towering dark mutant strides toward him, a cruel smirk plastered on his face as he mocks the newcomer as just another lucky rat destined to die. With a sudden, explosive burst of kinetic energy, the ground shatters as the monster launches a lethal lightning-fast ambush. A massive, dark claw cuts through the air with enough force to shatter steel, aiming directly for Junho's head in a bid for an instant kill. But the attacker's smug expression instantly vanishes when his hand collides with an invisible, absolute barrier of pure magical energy. The mutant struggles in disbelief, his giant claw completely frozen midair as he realizes his full-power strike has failed to even scratch the boy standing before him. Panic begins to set in, his glowing blue eyes widening as he realizes the sheer, unyielding density of the defensive aura shielding his prey. Standing perfectly calm amidst a brilliant dome of purple energy, Junho watches his attacker's frantic struggle with cold, absolute indifference. Sweating profusely, the beastly warrior frantically tries to comprehend how a seemingly weak rookie could possess a defense capable of completely neutralizing his godlike dark power. Suddenly, the ancient demonic presence within the mutant's pendant awakens, its glowing purple eyes staring at Junho with a mixture of shock and sheer horror. The supreme entity realizes the terrifying truth. The unassuming human standing before them possesses a dark, corrupted authority that is far more terrifying than its own. Junho's eyes flash with a brilliant, predatory light, a cold smile forming on his lips as he decides it's time to end this pathetic struggle once and for all. With a sudden, explosive burst of his legendary corrupted blessing, Junho shatters the mutant's dark claw into a million glowing fragments, sending a devastating shockwave through the street. Terrified, the mutant desperately cries out to his god for aid, only to be met with a cold, absolute rejection as his master tells him to face his own doom. The dark energy holding the spatial rift open begins to violently break apart, leaving the desperate beast completely stranded and helpless. Realizing that their divine backing has abandoned them, the invading monsters scream in panic, scrambling to retreat back into the closing gate before they are wiped out. The dark corruption holding the mutant's physical form together rapidly unravels, his muscles shrinking and his dark power fading away into nothingness. Junho looks down at the pathetic creature with a smug, knowing grin, fully realizing that his absolute defenses make him completely untouchable to any mutant's dark magic. He recalls the fundamental lore of this world. Mutants are blessed with rare, hidden dark jobs during their awakening, granting them power that far surpasses ordinary hunters of their rank. But that overwhelming strength comes with a fatal catch. If their dark connection is ever severed, they are left weaker and more vulnerable than the most ordinary human. Desperate and powerless, the mutant screams in agony as his life force is violently torn from his body, his dreams of conquest instantly turning to ashes. With the threat neutralized, Junho casually stretches his shoulders, thankful that his passive defensive barrier allowed him to ignore his own defense entirely and focus purely on dealing maximum damage. But there is no time to celebrate. As he scans the ruined street, he knows he must quickly claim his legendary loot and vanish into the shadows before the city's authorities arrive to investigate. A heavy, suffocating silence hangs over the devastated cityscape as dark clouds gather, threatening to swallow the remaining ruins whole. Moving swiftly through the debris, elite investigators confirm the unbelievable truth. The sudden, catastrophic dungeon break is completely halted. But the head investigator's eyes narrow in deep suspicion, unable to shake the chilling realization that such massive magical anomalies do not just vanish on their own. Grim reports from other sectors confirm massive casualties, adding to the growing dread that this peaceful resolution is nothing but a temporary illusion. Panic flares in her chest as she realizes the devastated zone was under the protection of a legendary master, forcing her to order an immediate sweep of the area. At the heart of the destruction, a lone operative stands over the desecrated remains of the traitor who orchestrated this nightmare. His gaze darkens with absolute fury as he realizes the traitor's legendary high-tier loot has already been completely plundered by an unknown hand. Before he can search for clues, the sharp command of the approaching investigators echoing through the ruins forces him to halt. Turning calmly, the mysterious hunter flashes an elite emblem, identifying himself as an agent of the secret syndicate known only as Illusion. The name of the notorious shadow organization sends a violent shiver of distrust through the security force, keeping their weapons locked on him. She demands to know what business a covert operative could possibly have at the epicenter of such a brutal massacre. The hunter's eyes turn icy, preparing to reveal a terrifying truth about the monstrosity that lay dead before them. He grimly explains that the dead mutant was once a revered member of his own syndicate who sold his soul to summon the apocalypse. Horrific puzzle pieces finally snap into place, revealing that the nightmare only ended because someone successfully executed the traitor. But when he asks if the elite investigators were the ones who delivered the fatal blow, they are left utterly speechless. He is left in absolute disbelief, knowing that the elusive betrayer was a target even he could never hope to corner, let alone defeat. If a seasoned 3rd advancement rank hunter was completely overwhelmed by this beast, who on earth could have slaughtered it so effortlessly? A heavy suffocating dread settles over them both as they realize an entity of unmatched power is walking silently among them. Refusing to let the trail go cold, the shadow hunter vanishes back into the wreckage, obsessed with finding the mystery savior. Meanwhile, completely detached from the tense investigations, a quiet apartment complex stands peaceful and undisturbed under the starlit sky. Inside his room, Junho lets out a victorious roar of pure excitement as he gazes upon his incredible battle spoils. The legendary epic-grade armor pieces in his inventory possess defensive stats that completely dwarf any standard boss drops. A cold sweat breaks on his neck as he realizes that if the mutant had been high enough level to equip this, even his dark magic might have failed to kill him. But his focus shifts to a far more bizarre relic, a sinister skull pendant radiating an unmeasurable, completely unknown rarity. He chuckles nervously at the absurd thought of some ancient sealed demonic god dwelling inside such a tiny trinket. But as if responding to his mockery, the terrifying skull begins to hum with an ominous, suffocating aura of dark mana. Unbeknownst to the laughing teen, a colossal predatory eye opens in the void behind him, locking onto his very soul. Deep within his personal dimension, the great demonic god sits on his throne, breathing a sigh of relief that he severed his connection before being discovered. But his cosmic relief is instantly shattered when he realizes the human boy's chilling gaze is piercing right through the dimensional rift. Absolute terror paralyzes the ancient deity as he comes face to face with the sheer ungodly perception of a mere mortal. Screaming in a state of pure, unadulterated panic, the dark god frantically commands his minions to completely seal the coordinate gates. Drenched in a cold sweat, the humiliated god gasps for air, utterly traumatized by the realization that a human boy almost tracked him to his throne. As the morning sun rises over the city hospital, the high-stakes investigation takes a dramatic turn within its walls. Bandaged from head to toe, the surviving master hunter weakly delivers his testimony, confirming that a mysterious youth saved his entire raid team. He describes the terrifying scene where the unstoppable invader panicked and fled the very second the young fighter stepped onto the battlefield. With absolute humility, the seasoned veteran admits that the mystery savior possesses a strength that far eclipses his own. The lead investigators listen in stunned silence, struggling to comprehend the existence of a force capable of neutralizing such a threat. He pieces together the clues, suspecting that this hidden titan must be an unregistered hunter operating completely outside the jurisdiction of the Alliance. Despite the mystery, a faint hope glimmers in the veteran's eyes, knowing such an invincible guardian is watching over their city. But the lead analyst's face darkens as he prepares to voice a theory so disturbing it could shatter the peace of the entire nation. He reminds them of the lingering traces of abyssal darkness discovered at the battlefield, a signature belonging only to the worst threats. The room turns ice cold as he whispers the unthinkable question. What if their heroic savior is actually a terrifying mutant? He points out the chilling detail that despite using devastating dark magic, not a single civilian was harmed during the clash. The injured master scoffs at the absurd claim, laughing off the idea that a bloodthirsty mutant would ever act as humanity's shield. Yet, as she stares into the void, the lead investigator cannot shake the terrifying possibility that their savior is the most dangerous anomaly yet. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the manhunt, Junho casually strolls up to the heavily fortified gates of a secret facility. Rising majestically amidst the jagged cliffs is the legendary Sanctum of Radiance, the site of his highly anticipated advancement quest. Shielding his eyes, Junho gazes up at the magnificent temple, eager to claim the ultimate evolution of his legendary powers. But as he walks toward the entrance, a sinister shadow watches from the rocky cliffs, waiting to strike when he least expects it. Peering through the dust, the shadow hunter's eyes lock onto his prey, determined to uncover the secrets of the boy who conquered the dark. Flashback to the Central Exchange a few days prior, where the dark dealings of the hunter underworld take place under the cover of night. A powerful broker guides a wealthy new client through the facility, whispering that a legendary high-tier customer has finally arrived. Boss Wang greets the mysterious silver-haired youth with a greedy smile, eager to sell him a priceless 4th advancement fighter set. The broker's assistant smiles smugly, realizing that securing a high-spending, elite client like this will guarantee her a life of luxury and endless commission. Wang boasts that one of his regulars has just listed the matching top and bottom pieces of the legendary set, making this a once-in-a-lifetime deal. But the youth's eyes narrow with an icy, menacing glare, demanding to know the exact location of this regular customer immediately. Sensing the sudden suffocating pressure from the young elite, Wang nervously laughs it off and claims the seller is too busy to meet in person today. Deep down, the silver-haired hunter's heart beats with a furious intensity as he realizes these coordinates lead to his late master's stolen legacy. He demands the broker reveal the seller's identity, offering to pay any price for the information, pushing the terrified merchant to his absolute limit. But as the tension rises, the broker's assistant starts to feel a chilling suspicion. How could a legendary set magically appear the exact moment someone came looking for it? Trying to buy time, Wang claims the seller has traveled to a neighboring city, promising to call him immediately to arrange a meeting. Once the heavy steel door slams shut and the buyer departs, the false smiles vanish as a grim silence descends upon the office. Alone with his assistant, Wang clutches his head in sheer panic, realizing they are caught in the middle of a deadly storm. He reveals that a background check on the seller, Ahn Junho, shows he is just a pathetic one-star orphan with absolutely no noble backing. The assistant's greedy admiration instantly sours into disgust, realizing they were nearly fooled by a penniless nobody playing with fire. The terrifying question remains, if Junho is a weakling with no sponsors, how did he obtain gear that only the gods should possess? Terror grips her heart as she realizes that if the silver-haired elite discovers the gear was stolen, a bloodbath will consume them all. Wang sneers with dark malice, realizing that the foolish boy has dug his own grave by trying to sell stolen treasures to a literal monster. She laughs wickedly, eagerly anticipating the moment this pathetic thief is utterly crushed by the unstoppable wrath of a 4th advancement rank hunter. Back in the present, the shadow hunter stands atop the jagged cliffs, his predatory gaze locked on the target walking far below. He watches Junho's every move, still unable to believe that a mere teenager successfully conquered a disaster that even his master could not survive. Armed with the intel, he prepares to strike, knowing that whether this boy is a thief or a hidden god, he must tread with absolute caution. Junho calmly approaches the gates of the Sanctum of Radiance, completely indifferent to the low-level skirmishes happening around him. Sensing a surge of magical energy, the Shadow Hunter leans closer, eager to finally gauge the boy's true power from the armor he equips. A brilliant vortex of blue mana erupts around Junho, threatening to reveal the legendary god-tier battle gear hidden within his inventory. As the light fades, the Shadow Hunter's jaw drops in absolute disbelief at the incredibly basic student-like clothes left behind. He quickly realizes this must be a masterclass in stealth, a genius disguise designed to blend into the crowd and lose any pursuers. Determined not to lose his master's legacy, the Shadow Hunter ignites a vibrant tracking curse, locking onto the boy's signature. The invisible green brand embeds itself into Junho's clothes, ensuring that no matter where he hides, there is no escaping the shadow. Yet, the hunter remains deeply baffled. Why would an entity of such rumored power waste time entering a dungeon filled with weaklings? Junho steps into the ancient, silent temple, his calm footsteps echoing through the crumbling stone corridors as he searches for his prize. Suddenly, his predatory instincts flare up as a violent, suffocating pressure fills the air, signaling the arrival of a true threat. Crackling with devastating blue lightning, a giant temple guardian rouses from its slumber, ready to obliterate the intruder. The stone titan unleashes a blinding, catastrophic beam of pure destruction, aiming directly for the boy's head with lethal force. But the devastating blast shatters harmlessly against a shimmering hexagonal barrier, unable to leave even a single scratch on Junho. From his hiding spot, the Shadow Hunter gasps in sheer terror as he witnesses the effortless neutralization of a high-tier spell. He trembles as the terrifying truth hits him. The boy possesses the mythical, unbreakable, absolute defense, a passive power reserved only for gods. To his horror, even the bloodthirsty temple monsters sense the chilling authority radiating from Junho and desperately scramble to stay out of his way. With a sharp, resounding click, Junho's footsteps halt at the threshold of the central chamber, ready to claim his destiny. He stands face-to-face with the towering statue of the final boss, completely unfazed as he prepares for a solo raid that would terrify entire guilds. The colossal stone god stares down with vacant, terrifying eyes, a silent harbinger of absolute death to any mortal who dares enter. But as Junho's icy gaze locks onto it, the ancient stone boss begins to sweat in pure, unadulterated terror, paralyzed by the sheer pressure. Realizing the stone guardian is far too weak to match his quest, Junho casually walks right past it, leaving the legendary boss trembling in relief. He reaches the heart of the inner sanctum, looking up as a brilliant, divine radiance begins to pierce the ancient gloom. Emerging from the golden light is the true hidden trial of the temple, a majestic, winged celestial warrior clad in shimmering armor. The divine entity hovers in the air, radiating an aura of absolute majesty as it prepares to pass ultimate judgment on the mortal intruder.
Its eyes ignite with a blinding golden fury, locking onto Junho with absolute world-ending intent. The instant its divine senses register the terrifying corrupted darkness slumbering within Junho, the celestial screams in panic and frantically flees.
Junho is left completely dumbfounded, staring up at the empty sky, wondering why the legendary boss scrambled for its life before he could even attack. Behind the rocks, the Shadow Hunter's mind completely shatters, utterly terrified by the realization that he is stalking an entity that even gods fear. A sudden system notification flashes, revealing his true advancement quest. He must obtain the sacred badge from this holy temple and somehow repel the hidden mythical boss Seraphim. Looking at the requirements, a confident smirk spreads across Junho's face, realizing that an S-rank trial meant for entire elite squads has just been laid out before him. Meanwhile, the hidden Shadow Hunter clutches his chest in absolute despair, realizing he is trapped inside a collapsing zone with nowhere left to run. High above the temple peaks, violent lightning tears the sky apart as a catastrophic energy begins to gather, threatening to vaporize the entire structure. Panicked and desperate, the legendary celestial trial boss flees for its life, frantically trying to escape the monstrous aura emanating from the mortal boy below.
The Shadow Hunter reaches out in silent desperation, his eyes wide as he realizes the fleeing god is leaving them behind to face an even greater terror. Standing completely unfazed, Junho raises his arm as a swirling vortex of corrupted, abyssal darkness surges from his fingertips, completely eclipsing the temple's light. Suddenly, a massive, blood-red eye manifests within the storm clouds, staring down with world-ending malice as lightning crackles across the sky. The colossal eye ignites, unleashing a devastating, blinding beam of pure destruction that threatens to erase every trace of existence. The catastrophic beam collides with the earth in a deafening explosion, shattering the very foundations of the mountain in a display of godlike force. As the smoke begins to clear, Junho stands perfectly unharmed, his hand still raised high as if he had merely swatted away a minor annoyance. With absolute composure, his boots remain firmly planted on the ground, completely indifferent to the devastating shockwaves still rippling through the canyon. Around him, the ancient monuments of the Sanctum of Radiance crumble to dust, unable to withstand the overwhelming pressure of his dark magic. From his hiding spot, the Shadow Hunter falls to his knees, his mind completely breaking as he tries to comprehend the impossible magic he just witnessed. A colossal plume of dust and smoke rises into the sky, marking the violent end of a trial that was supposed to be completely unbeatable. Trembling with raw terror, the seasoned hunter realizes this boy's strength doesn't just eclipse ordinary masters, it is a cataclysmic force that rivals the gods themselves. Junho sighs, completely disappointed as he stares at the wreckage, muttering that clearing such a high-tier dungeon was a complete waste of potential experience points. With a casual gesture, he summons the legendary sacred badge, watching it materialize in a brilliant divine glow that permanently boosts his recovery and willpower to absurd levels. Eager to leave, Junho pulls out a teleportation scroll, only for the Shadow Hunter to suddenly burst from the dust, desperately screaming for him to stop. Junho's heart skips a beat as he freezes, panicking at the realization that this mysterious stalker might have witnessed his forbidden dark magic. Seeing the boy's cold gaze, the Shadow Hunter breaks into a cold sweat, terrified that he has just angered an unstoppable monster who could erase him in a heartbeat. He quickly raises his hands in absolute submission, frantically pleading with Junho to calm down and hear him out before making a deadly mistake. Suddenly, a piercing, high-pitched alarm echoes across the mountain range, shattering the tense silence and catching both of them off guard. Realizing they are about to be swarmed by reinforcements, Junho ignites the teleport scroll, coldly telling the intruder they will finish their conversation outside. In the blink of an eye, the two are warped to a secluded, windswept hill far away where the howling wind carries the heavy silence of an impending interrogation. Junho sits calmly on a boulder, his gaze narrowing like a predator as he demands to know why the stranger has been stalking him from the shadows. The intruder bows his head in deep regret, apologizing profusely and explaining that he only wanted to confirm the identity of the miracle fighter with his own eyes. He reveals a tragic past, recalling how his legendary master sacrificed his own life to seal a catastrophic dungeon break, only for a cowardly traitor to ruin everything. Hearing the tale, Junho's mind races as he realizes this stalker is actually a formidable fourth advancement hunter, meaning his secret identity is in constant immediate danger. As the silence stretches, a terrifying, suffocating shadow looms over the veteran, driving him to panic as he wonders if the boy is planning to execute him to keep his secrets. Grasping at his last chance, the desperate hunter bows low, begging this hidden god to help him avenge his fallen master in exchange for his absolute loyalty. Junho agrees on one critical condition. Everything that happened today must remain an absolute secret between the two of them forever. Looking at the young hero, the veteran's heart swells with profound respect, realizing that despite wielding a terrifying power of darkness, this boy's heart is purely noble. With his loyalty firmly sworn, the hunter quietly falls in line behind Junho, completely unaware of the massive storm brewing in the city they are returning to. Suddenly, a sharp vibration in Junho's pocket breaks the quiet atmosphere, signaling an incoming call from someone he never expected. He answers the device, his voice tightening as he hears the frantic tone of Miss Yo Jin on the other end of the line. Her face is pale as she demands to know his exact location, urgently ordering him to meet her the very second he returns to the city. Hanging up, Junho stares at the dark screen, a sinking feeling growing in his chest as he wonders what could have triggered such extreme urgency. Back at the Alliance headquarters, Yeo Jin sits tensely across from the lead analyst, the heavy air in the office thick with unspoken suspicions. Yeojin tries to calm her colleague, insisting that Junho's voice sounded completely normal and that he was already on his way back. But the lead analyst's eyes narrow behind her glasses, pointing out the mathematical impossibility of a freshly awakened student reaching the first advancement in mere days. Yeojin stands up defensively, fiercely declaring her unwavering trust in the kind, hard-working boy she has known for years. Yet the analyst's calculating gaze remains cold and unwavering, determined to uncover the truth no matter how deep the secrets run. Opening a secure line to the higher-ups, she briefs the powerful Alliance Council, urging them to keep a vigilant eye on this highly anomalous student. The battle-scarred Grandmaster of the Alliance nods grimly, demanding to know if there are any other alarming details they should be aware of. The room falls into a heavy, suffocating silence as the analyst hesitates, preparing to voice a theory that could turn the entire nation against their savior. Steeling her resolve, she asks the unthinkable. Could the devastating dark magic witnessed in the city actually be the work of a highly dangerous mutant? The veteran council members freeze, their faces turning completely pale at the mention of a threat that has historically brought nations to their knees. The Grandmaster's face contorts with sudden fury as he slams his fist down, fiercely reminding her of the tragic, horrific nature of her own mutant lineage. He warns that mutants who wield the forbidden power of darkness always pay with their sanity, slowly rotting away until they inevitably transform into bloodthirsty monsters. The lead analyst refuses to back down, her voice cold and absolute as she declares that a catastrophic Monarch-class mutant is a threat that simply cannot be allowed to exist in this world. But her warning is met with mocking laughter from the brash young investigator, who sneers that she has grown old and paranoid, chasing ghost stories and ancient fairy tales instead of looking at real facts. Unfazed by his mockery, she stands firm, declaring that as an analyst, it is her duty to consider every terrifying possibility, whether the Alliance Council is brave enough to accept the truth or not. The investigator's smirk only deepens, his eyes gleefully glinting as he points out that her grand theories mean nothing when she has failed to find a single shred of actual evidence to support them. He bursts into arrogant laughter, boldly declaring that if a mythical Monarch-class mutant actually exists, he will gladly put his own neck on the line to prove her wrong. Heavy silence is broken by the old Grandmaster, who grimly announces that a specialized investigation team has already been dispatched to Jinyu City, stripping them of their support from the shadows. Betrayed and cornered, the analyst's eyes flare with anger as she demands to know if the Alliance has completely lost its trust in her calculations. Taking a deep, stabilizing breath, she crosses her hands and steels her resolve, knowing that the terrifying truth will make itself known soon enough, whether they are prepared for it or not. Suddenly, the heavy doors burst open as a panicked scout rushes into the chamber, screaming that critical new intelligence has just arrived from the front lines. Gasping for breath, the scout reports that the legendary Sanctum of Radiance has just been completely decimated by an unbelievably destructive spell of unknown origin. Hearing the target's name, Yeojin's heart stops in sheer panic as she realizes that the destroyed temple is the exact location where Junho went to complete his advancement trial. The lead analyst lets out a quiet, knowing sigh, confirming that the epicenter of this godlike destruction was indeed the sacred sanctuary. Chilling, triumphant smile slowly spreads across her face as she realizes her darkest theories are finally aligning, and the mystery of the monstrous student is getting more interesting by the second. Meanwhile, in Ambiel City, a massive glowing defensive barrier is activated, casting a brilliant blue dome over the metropolitan area to shield its citizens from the surging residual magic. Amidst the packed, anxious crowd looking up at the shimmering sky, Junho stands silently disguised, listening to the terrified whispers of the citizens, praying that the barrier will hold. High-ranking guards march through the streets, loudly reassuring the panicked public that this state-of-the-art barrier is designed to withstand even the most absolute forces of darkness. Junho can only sweat in silent embarrassment, realizing that his casual display of dark magic back at the temple was so massive it triggered a citywide maximum lockdown, trapping him outside his own home. But before the relief can settle, a violent, crackling tear suddenly splits the sky directly above the city, tearing through the atmospheric layer like wet paper. Within the bleeding void, a massive, terrifying shadow with glowing red eyes and rows of razor-sharp fangs manifests, staring down at the city with pure, predatory malice. With a thunderous roar, a colossal, heavily armored demon lord steps through the rift, inhaling deeply as he relishes the sweet scent of the human world he is about to conquer. The towering demon looks down at the shimmering protective barrier, scoffing in absolute disgust at the pathetic shells humans build to hide their inherent weakness. With a single casual gesture, the demon lord commands his dark legion to descend, and the void behind him erupts with a swarm of vicious winged monsters. Dozens of bloodthirsty gargoyles pour from the rift, their screeching cries echoing through the clouds as they swarm toward the city like a plague of locusts. The demon lord steps forward with crushing authority, mocking the humans' desperate defense as he prepares to shatter their foolish hopes once and for all. Raising a massive clawed hand tipped with glowing energy, he strikes the flawless surface of the absolute barrier with casual, world-shattering force. He unleashes a booming, maniacal laugh as he orders his minions to unleash a brutal, unexpected slaughter upon the unsuspecting insects below. To the horror of the observers, the flying monsters do not crash against the barrier. Instead, they begin to warp and bypass the energy shield entirely, descending upon the streets. In the middle of the crowded square, a crackling portal suddenly manifests inside the secure perimeter, throwing the helpless crowd into instant, suffocating panic. The armored city guards freeze in sheer disbelief, their hearts sinking as they look up and realize the impossible has happened. The threat is already inside. Before anyone can react, the vicious gargoyles swoop down from the rifts, their razor-sharp talons tearing through the crowd as the horrific screams of the wounded fill the air. The orderly streets dissolve into absolute chaos, with terrified civilians fleeing in every direction, desperately screaming for help as the bloodthirsty beasts hunt them down. Sweat pours down the face of the veteran commander as he tries to process the tactical nightmare. The barrier remains perfectly intact, yet the monsters are manifesting directly inside the city walls. Panic turns to madness as crowds of people stampede through the narrow alleys, trampling one another in a frantic, desperate bid to escape the descending slaughter. Standing amidst the chaotic stampede, the elite warrior in green armor ignites his aura, his eyes burning with intense resolve as he prepares to stand his ground, with a disguised Junho watching him from behind. The warrior quickly reports the catastrophic situation to his superiors, confirming that this is an unprecedented, extremely powerful dungeon break mirroring the tragedy of Jinyu City. But as he speaks, the elite warrior glances back at the quiet boy, a sudden burning suspicion rising in his chest as he wonders how this ordinary-looking student could possibly remain so utterly calm in the face of death. His mind races as he realizes the boy's calm demeanor isn't ignorance, it is the absolute terrifying composure of a hidden master who is silently testing his worth. Steeling his resolve to pass this silent trial, the warrior cracks his neck and boldly steps forward, promising to handle the threat himself and prove his strength to the quiet god standing behind him. Junho can only watch with a blank, bewildered expression, mentally wishing the enthusiastic warrior good luck while celebrating the fact that he won't have to expose his own forbidden powers to the public. A massive, deafening shockwave suddenly rips through the street, tearing up the pavement and scattering the fleeing crowd as the true monster finally lands in their midst. Emerging from the dust is the towering, red-eyed demon lord laughing maniacally as his suffocating pressure crushes the spirits of the remaining defenders. An elite archer steps forward, drawing his bow with trembling hands and launching a powerful magic-infused arrow straight at the beast's chest with a desperate cry. The explosive arrow collides with the demon lord's chest, but the beast merely scoffs, completely uninjured, as the divine projectile shatters against his impervious skin. Charging forward with desperate courage, a heavily armored vanguard leaps into the air, swinging his massive broadsword down in a strike meant to cleave the monster in two. But the devastating blow is met with a sickening crunch as the warrior's blade shatters against the demon's arm, sending the broken warrior crashing into the stone ground in agony. The surrounding archers and defenders fall into absolute despair, realizing with cold certainty that their strongest physical attacks cannot even scratch this monstrous entity. Standing tall amidst the wreckage, the demon lord stares down at them, his glowing red eyes radiating an aura of absolute dominance. He sighs in profound disappointment, muttering that the humans are far too boring and weak, lacking even a single warrior worthy of his time. With a cruel grin, the towering demon begins to march forward, his massive silhouette casting a shadow of absolute death over the screaming, fleeing survivors. As the desperate cries for salvation echo through the collapsing city, the stampeding crowd has nowhere left to run, completely unaware of the terrifying power dormant within the quiet boy standing in the shadows. A helpless civilian screams in terror as a towering winged nightmare looms directly over her, raising a jagged pitch-black blade to deliver a fatal, gruesome strike. The bloodthirsty demon laughs maniacally, his red eyes burning with utter contempt as he roars that all humans are nothing but pathetic, useless trash. But before the deadly blade can slice through the screaming crowd, a brilliant, flashing barrier of pure energy erupts to block the devastating blow. Out of nowhere, the elite green-armored warrior leaps directly into the path of death, incredibly halting the massive demon lord's strike with his twin glowing daggers. The monstrous beast's eyes widen in genuine shock, completely stunned that an ordinary human actually possesses the strength to intercept his absolute authority.
Gritting his teeth under the immense pressure, the loyal warrior declares that while he knows his quiet master doesn't need protection, he refuses to let these vile pests disrupt his master's peace. With unyielding resolve, he begs Junho to leave the battle to him, completely unaware of how deeply his intense reverence is embarrassing the quiet student behind him. A sinister grin spreads across the Demon Lord's face as he realizes he has finally found a human who is actually worth killing. With a thunderous roar, the warrior launches himself into the air like a streak of lightning, channeling a colossal wave of energy for a devastating counterstrike. The brutal blow hits with staggering force, causing the armored Demon Lord to violently spit blue blood as his absolute defense is shattered. Panic flashes through the monster's glowing red eyes as he realizes this human warrior is far more lethal than he could have ever anticipated. Swooping down from above like an absolute god of death, the warrior crosses his lethal daggers, his eyes glowing with an intense, terrifying power. Before the demon can even react, a massive glowing grid of razor-sharp energy lines weaves across the sky, completely binding the massive beast in place. With a series of blinding, rapid-fire flashes, the net of light slices through the monster's impenetrable flesh, ripping his formidable form apart. Landing flawlessly amidst the exploding magical residue, the victorious warrior stands tall, his daggers gleaming with residual energy after executing a flawless slaughter. The surviving citizens and guards watch in breathless awe, frantically whispering that this warrior must possess an incredibly rare legendary hidden class. Emerging from the raging flames of battle like a legendary general, the warrior's overwhelming aura commands absolute respect from everyone in the ruined square. His intense golden eyes remain locked forward, completely focused on proving his loyalty and worth to the quiet master watching his every move. Behind him, Junho can barely contain his inner excitement at witnessing such an incredibly cool, overpowered display while outwardly maintaining a perfectly calm, unimpressed demeanor. Suddenly, a massive system announcement echoes through the area, declaring the threat neutralized and urging the remaining forces to launch a full-scale counterattack. Ignoring the cheering crowds, the powerful warrior immediately kneels before Junho, humbly asking if there are any further tasks his master requires of him. Breaking his stoic mask for just a brief second, Junho enthusiastically gives him a massive thumbs up, praising his flawless performance with genuine relief. The onlookers look on in sheer disbelief, convinced that Junho must be the incredibly powerful secret heir of a colossal conglomerate elite to command such a monstrous bodyguard. Kneeling lower, the warrior holds out two radiating, highly concentrated spheres of energy, presenting the rare loot dropped by the defeated Demon Lord. The crowd gasps in absolute jealousy upon realizing the boss dropped a legendary, high-tier orange item worth an astronomical fortune on the open market. Floating in the air is the legendary skill book Death Chasing, a rare agility-type power that Junho immediately decides to save for Yunseo. Alongside the book is the menacing Demon Bone Shield, a high-tier defensive relic that Junho notes will fetch an incredible price when sold. Before they can leave, a heavily armored commander and a prestigious high priest rush forward, desperately requesting a moment of their valuable time. To the shock of the onlookers, a dignified elite bows deeply before Junho and the warrior, offering his deepest gratitude for single-handedly saving the entire metropolis from annihilation. Introducing himself as Cha Dongmyang, the mayor of Anbyo City, he nervously notes that he has never seen such godlike warriors in this region before. Junho quickly waves it off, explaining with a sigh that they were merely passing through on urgent business and got stuck here because of the sudden citywide lockup. In the mayor's eyes, Junho's casual explanation takes on a terrifying, threatening weight, leaving the politician sweating in sheer panic as he realizes they accidentally trapped a godlike powerhouse. Terrified of angering a master of such caliber, the mayor bows even lower, repeatedly apologizing for the monumental inconvenience caused by their security barrier. Eager to appease the mysterious young lord, the mayor frantically orders his secretary to bring out a highly coveted priceless flight scroll as compensation. Junho's eyes widen in surprise at the mention of a flight scroll, knowing that such a rare utility item is nearly impossible to acquire in a mid-sized city like Anbyo. Seizing the moment, the desperate mayor pleads with the two powerhouses to stay in the city for just a few more days, fearing their defenses are far too weak to survive another assault. Junho immediately scratches his head in awkward refusal, knowing he has a strict 3-day deadline to complete his own high-stakes advancement quest. Just then, the panting assistant rushes back holding a finely crafted glowing chest containing the requested legendary item. Presenting the chest, the mayor also offers a glittering, ultra-exclusive VIP black card from the Central Exchange, a token of appreciation reserved only for the world's elite. Junho stands stunned, staring at the legendary VIP card and finally understanding how a local mayor was able to get his hands on a rare flight scroll in the first place. Flashing a bright, cheerful smile, Junho happily accepts the lavish gifts, handing the black card to his loyal warrior and promising to put them to excellent use. The mayor lets out a massive sigh of relief, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead as he celebrates the fact that the terrifying young master didn't lose his temper and obliterate them all. With trembling hope, the politician hesitantly asks if they might be allowed to call upon Junho's legendary strength if the city ever faces total destruction again. Junho gives a warm, relaxed nod, casually promising to lend a hand if he happens to be in the area and has spare time. The entire leadership erupted into jubilant cheers and applause, ecstatic to activating the legendary flight scroll. Junho and his loyal warriors soar high into the clouds, speeding toward Jinyu City at unbelievable velocities. Meanwhile, back at the monumental Jinyu City Advancement Hall, a tense crowd of elite hunters stands waiting outside the colossal ancient gateway. Suddenly, the massive portal ripples with energy, and the waiting crowd erupts into excited shouts as they realize a legendary trial challenger is finally emerging. Walking out of the gateway with unmatched grace and elegance is the legendary golden-haired warrior Ha Yunseo, her steps radiating an aura of overwhelming strength. Her amber eyes gleam with absolute determination, but as she scans the crowd, a sudden burning question fills her mind. Where's the mysterious student who is supposed to meet her here? High above the city gates, two blinding streaks of light tear through the dark clouds, moving at a speed that defies all mortal comprehension. Before she can even register the sheer power of the flying entities, an annoying voice cuts through the quiet, demanding to know what has captured her attention. Yunseo keeps her eyes locked on the horizon, her gut telling her with absolute certainty that one of those streaks belonged to the elusive student Junho. Her companion scoffs in mocking disbelief, reminding her that a penniless, newly awakened hunter could never afford a legendary flight scroll. A cold, lethal aura erupts from Yunseo as she turns her piercing gaze toward him, warning him that speaking ill of Junho again will be his final mistake. The insult stings his pride, filling him with a bitter, burning rage as he wonders why she always defends that useless trash over him. The tense standoff is suddenly interrupted as the rest of their elite party approaches, eager to discuss the results of their brutal second advancement quests. The proud swordsman boasts about scoring an impressive A-rank quest, claiming that S-ranks are nothing more than a myth of pure luck. Their armored companion heartily agrees, pointing out that an A rank at their young age makes them prime targets for the world's top universities. Turning to their golden-haired genius, the pink-haired mage bounces with excitement, desperately wanting to know what legendary quest Yunseo received. But instead of boasting, Yunseo falls dead silent, her golden eyes narrowing as she contemplates the bizarre reality of her trial. The sudden heavy silence hangs over the group like a suffocating blanket, raising immediate alarm bells in all their minds. Misinterpreting her grim expression, her teammates assume the worst, fearing their star genius somehow choked and rolled a pathetic C rank. Internally, her rival smugly celebrates, knowing that a low-ranking quest will permanently cripple her stat growth and unlockable skills. With fake pity, he smugly offers to carry her on future raids, fully believing she is about to fall completely out of his league. Yunseo snaps back with cold irritation, clarifying that she isn't upset about failing, she's just confused because she actually rolled a god-tier S rank. The bombshell announcement strikes the group like a lightning bolt, leaving their jaws on the floor in absolute, horrified disbelief. Flustered by her own success, Yunseo explains that the system didn't give her a standard trial because her path deviated entirely from normal hunters. With a steady voice, she reveals the true nature of her quest, an impossible trial to unlock a legendary hidden class never before seen by humanity. Her rival's face pales in sheer terror as he frantically argues that classes are locked at awakening, rendering such a system miracle completely impossible. The pew flies in the memory of the glowing advancement chamber where the ancient magic recognized a power far beyond the norm. The moment she stepped into the circle, the system detected the Vanguard's badge, instantly triggering a forced evolutionary upgrade to the mythic Blade Shadow class. Standing amidst the roaring magical energy, Yunseo's mind reeled as she realized her entire destiny was rewriting itself in real time. It all traces back to the mysterious badge Junho casually tossed to her, a seemingly simple gift that held the key to ultimate power. Staring at the glowing crest, she is hit with a chilling realization. Did Junho predict this exact outcome from the very beginning? Without a single moment of hesitation, she thrust her hand upward, eagerly claiming the legendary class change that would elevate her to godhood. Back in the present, her teammate is utterly flabbergasted, screaming at Yunseo for accepting such a massive risk without analyzing the consequences. Her rival desperately tries to sow seeds of doubt, warning her that binding herself to an unknown class could permanently ruin her future. Yunseo coolly brushes off his panic, stating that her life is her own to shape, leaving him utterly speechless and thoroughly defeated. While her allies celebrate her newfound 5-star hidden class, wishing they had a friend like Junho, her rival seethes in a silent, murderous jealousy. He locks his eyes forward, vowing to track down that mysterious badge by any means necessary, no matter how much blood must be spilled. Meanwhile, deep within another private chamber, the corresponding relic begins to react, vibrating with a primordial holy power. The seal shatters with a deafening burst of golden light, unleashing a torrential wave of pure, concentrated energy. S-rank quest cleared with a perfect 100% completion, the overwhelming system power floods directly into Junho's core. Feeling the raw power surging through his veins, a wild grin spreads across Junho's face as he realizes he has unlocked the absolute mastery of dark magic. Standing outside, the powerful green-armored warrior keeps his arms crossed, silently guarding his master's private chamber with unyielding resolve. High above the silent corridor, a hidden shadow watches their every move, keeping a vigilant eye on this rising powerhouse. From the security room, a sharp-eyed analyst spots a terrifying anomaly, the legendary elite warrior standing guard at Junho's door. She consults the high-level database, confirming that this warrior is a renowned national-tier elite who achieved his 4th advancement at an impossibly young age. Yet, despite his incredible legendary status, intelligence reports state he treats the quiet student Junho with the absolute subservient respect of a loyal hound. High-ranking executives send out a dire warning to their field agents, emphasizing that underestimating the quiet boy could lead to their absolute ruin. Sensing a golden opportunity, the high-level representative Yeo-jin steps forward to intercept Junho and uncover the truth. With calm resolve, she declares her firm belief that Junho has no intention of becoming their enemy as long as they handle him correctly. Exiting the hall, Junho happily chats with his powerful bodyguard, entirely unaware of the massive political storm brewing around his name. Suddenly, the elegant figure of Yeo-jin blocks their path, her intense purple eyes locking onto the young master. Junho stops in surprise, asking what business a high-ranking official could possibly have with a simple student like him. Before she can speak, the legendary 4th advancement elite bows deeply to Junho, asking to step aside, leaving Yeo-jin utterly frozen in sheer shock. Junho frantically waves his hands with an awkward laugh, desperately trying to play off his bodyguard's intense reverence as a mere joke. Yeo-jin's gaze sharpens to a razor edge as she asks the defining question, did he just successfully complete his 1st advancement trial? Under the heavy, suffocating silence of the street, the young master must decide whether to maintain his weak cover or unleash the terrifying truth. Under the spotlight of her intense gaze, Junho realizes his attempt at playing the weak student is crumbling far faster than he ever anticipated. Yet looking into her eyes, he remembers that Yeo-jin has always watched over him, making her one of the very few souls in this cutthroat world he can actually trust. Deciding to play his hand cautiously, Junho flashes a sheepish smile, admitting that he indeed passed the advancement trial, but pleading with her to keep it quiet because his circumstances are far too complicated. Relief is short-lived as Yeo-jin leans in closer, her voice dropping to a deadly whisper as she demands to know if he has also been corrupted by the forbidden power of darkness. Cold sweat beads on Junho's forehead as panic strikes his chest, frantically wondering if his supreme system secrets have somehow been exposed to the entire world. Yeo-jin explains the grim reality, warning him that the recent surge in dungeon breaks has leaked dark energy, slowly twisting innocent citizens into monstrous, untamed mutants. Forcing a nervous laugh, Junho rubs the back of his neck and insists he is perfectly normal, well aware the mutant classification means permanent government surveillance and a life behind bars. Unconvinced by his casual attitude, Yeo-jin pulls out a sleek, pitch-black gemstone and demands that he undergo an immediate, undeniable test of his true nature. She holds the dark artifact toward him, explaining that pouring his raw mana into the stone will instantly expose the exact concentration of dark corruption hiding within his body. Junho stares at the ominous stone, his heart hammering against his ribs as he realizes his newly acquired absolute mastery of dark magic might trigger a catastrophic reaction. Noting his hesitation, Yeo-jin's suspicion instantly flares, her eyes narrowing as she prepares for the terrifying possibility that the boy is already lost to the darkness. Knowing he has no choice but to play along, Junho sheepishly reaches out, his hand trembling as his fingers make contact with the cold surface of the testing stone. The very instant his energy touches the artifact, a deafening crack echoes through the air as the stone violently ruptures, detonating into a shower of razor-sharp fragments. Screaming in mock horror, Junho recoils in fear, desperately trying to play the part of a terrified, incompetent bystander who has no idea what just happened. Yeo-jin's jaw drops in absolute paralyzed shock, her mind failing to comprehend how a government-grade artifact could simply obliterate itself upon mere contact. Playing dumb to save his skin, Junho rubs his head and sheepishly asks if she can explain what went wrong with her supposedly flawless test. Inside the secured high-level facility, the memory of the official protocol haunts Yeo-jin, knowing this government-issued mana detection stone was designed to be virtually indestructible. During standard procedures, elite testers would channel immense power into the stone, which would safely absorb the mana and begin to hum with a harmless blue resonance. Even under the most extreme concentrations of dark power, the stone was only supposed to vibrate violently, never once sustaining a single scratch. A chilling dread washes over Yeo-jin as she realizes the horrifying truth. For the stone to detonate so instantly, Junho's dark power must transcend any measurement known to mankind. Staring at the golden yellow blast that shattered the artifact, both of them remain locked in a suffocating silence, fully aware that a terrifying boundary has just been crossed. Breaking the tense standoff, Junho rubs his neck with an awkward grin, reminding her that while his sudden awakening is bizarre, their long history together should count for something. Looking at his warm, boyish smile, Yeo-jin's heart softens as she remembers the tragic truth of his past, an orphan who lost his parents young, struggling to survive, yet somehow remaining remarkably positive. Though her loyalty to him is fierce, she regretfully informs him that protocol demands she report the shattered artifact and his anomaly to the absolute highest authority. Externally, Junho nods in understanding, but internally his mind races to a grim contingency plan. If the government labels him a threat, he will have to abandon Jinyu City tonight. Deciding to shift her focus and secure her loyalty, Junho reaches into his inventory and presents a brilliant, pulsing light, catching her completely off guard. With a warm smile, he offers her a rare, beautifully bound purple tome, congratulating her on her own achievements and insisting she accept it as a token of his appreciation. Junho stands tall with a satisfied smirk, confident that this simple gesture will solidify their bond and keep his secrets safe from prying eyes. He insists it is merely some extra loot he stumbled upon during his trial, brushing off its value as if it were nothing more than common trash. But as the blinding golden aura fades, it reveals a legendary, exquisitely crafted epic circlet radiating an overwhelming divine healing energy.
Yojin gasps in pure, unadulterated shock, instantly recognizing the mythic item's ability to cast instantaneous, life-saving healing spells.
Overwhelmed by the sheer absurdity of the gift, she frantically tries to refuse such an invaluable treasure, but Junho merely laughs and pushes it back into her hands.
Giving a casual two-finger salute, the young master bids her farewell, claiming he has an important friend waiting for him as he leisurely walks away.
Yojin watches in stunned silence as the seemingly ordinary student strolls down the street, flanked by the towering, legendary 4th Advancement elite warrior who follows him like a loyal shadow. Clutching the glowing epic gear tightly to her chest, she is left with a burning, unsolvable question: who or what has Ahn Junho truly become?
Back at the high-security Hunter office, the shattered shards of the Mana Stone lie scattered across the table, a chilling testament to an impossible level of power.
The room's tension spikes as the analysts contemplate the catastrophic nightmare of turning a monster like Ahn Junho into a sworn enemy of the state. Realizing the extreme danger of poking a sleeping dragon, the sharp-eyed lead analyst abruptly stands up and declares that they must halt all investigations immediately. Adjusting her glasses, she coldly states that Ahn Junho has already transcended the scope of what their entire organization can handle, and pushing him further will only invite ruin. Turning to her lead operative, she orders that the official report to headquarters be completely buried, sealing every trace of Junho's existence forever. Yojin raises her hand in solemn agreement, knowing that keeping his godlike power a secret is the only way to shield the young master from a ruthless government manhunt. But a cunning glint sparkles in the analyst's eyes as she suggests a secondary plan. If they cannot touch Junho, they will dig into the origins of his mysterious warrior companion instead. Meanwhile, night falls over Jinyu City, shrouding the towering, luxury high-rise apartment of Ahn Junho in a quiet, deceptive peacefulness.
Inside the sleek penthouse, the golden-eyed warrior looks at his master with deep concern, noting the heavy, exhausting burden visible on Junho's face. Sprawled out on the leather couch, Junho checks his phone and reveals that Yeojin's faction successfully dropped the official investigation into their activities.
The loyal warrior tilts his head in confusion, wondering why his master still looks so incredibly stressed if the immediate threat of government exposure is past. Junho sighs deeply, explaining that his true worry lies in leveling up, because every single time he clears a dungeon, the sheer scale of his power causes a massive, unavoidable spectacle.
The warrior falls silent, his respect deepening as he realizes his master operates on a cosmic level where even his daily struggles defy all mortal comprehension.
Sensing an opportunity to serve, the warrior leans in and suggests a brilliant alternative: leveling up in unregistered, illegal dungeons far outside the government's watchful eyes. He explains that a massive wave of recent spatial anomalies has spawned untracked wild dungeons globally, many of which are completely controlled by lawless, shady syndicates. A dangerous, thrilled grin spreads across Junho's face as he realizes he can finally unleash his absolute power without restraint and commands his loyal warrior to lead the way into the shadows. To continue scaling his dark magic without drawing public attention, Junho clutches his card tightly, resolved to sell his hard-earned dungeon loot tomorrow and rest for today, confident that his hidden path of absolute strength will soon surpass all others. Beneath the cover of night, Jinyu City's towering Quick Hotel looms against the dark sky, serving as the perfect temporary sanctuary for allies and enemies alike. Having finished his secret meeting with Junho, the loyal warrior walks through the gilded corridors, planning to secure a permanent residence tomorrow while preparing for their next move. But his quiet exit is abruptly cut short as a sharp-dressed official steps out of the shadows, politely calling him by his alias and requesting he follow him immediately. Led into a private lounge, the warrior finds himself face-to-face with Zhang Huiyel, the newly appointed mayor of Jinyu City, who wastes no time thanking him for his heroism during the recent dungeon break. With a polite smile, the mayor slides a sleek crimson card across the table, a rare special Hunter ID granting absolute high-level privileges within the city. The warrior silently takes the card, inspecting the shimmering golden crest, deeply aware that this official recognition could either be a massive asset or a dangerous trap. Watching his cold demeanor, a bead of nervous sweat rolls down the mayor's face as he desperately hopes to keep this legendary powerhouse anchored to Jinyu City. Deciding to play along to protect his master's interests, the warrior slips the card away, calmly accepting the offering with a chillingly stoic expression. They seal the arrangement with a firm handshake, the mayor entirely unaware that he has just allied himself with a force far beyond his comprehension.
As they part ways, the warrior stares down at the token, realizing this newfound political influence might be exactly what his master needs to navigate the looming storm. Meanwhile, the clueless mayor beams with absolute triumph, utterly ecstatic that he has secured the loyalty of a fourth advancement titan to protect his city. Back at the hotel, the transition of power and alliances goes unnoticed by the public, but the gears of fate are already spinning faster than ever. Inside his private room, a flashing victory screen signals the end of Junho's intense gaming session, a brief escape from his overwhelming real-world burdens. But his peace is instantly shattered the moment he checks his phone, discovering his high school class group chat is blowing up in the dead of night. His classmates are panicking over their agonizingly slow level ups, desperately wondering if they will ever reach the coveted level 30 while the dungeons remain locked. Sprawled comfortably on his couch, Junho can only sigh, feeling a bizarre sense of detachment as he remembers that he has already cleared his first advancement trials in a matter of days. The atmosphere in the chat turns toxic as a petty classmate named Lee Daeyoung begins mocking Junho, calling him out for playing games instead of desperately training. Junho's eyes narrow as a flash of irritation crosses his face, completely done with the pathetic jealousy of those who still look down on him. Before he can even reply, Ki Yojin suddenly interjects with lethal authority, telling the bully to shut his mouth and mind his own business. A genuine laugh bursts from Junho as he stares at the screen, deeply amused by how his fierce friend always has his back, no matter the situation. But the laughter quickly dies when a classmate shares a horrifying news report detailing catastrophic dungeon breaks and out-of-control mutants ravaging the nation. A look of pure dread washes over Junho's face as he realizes the sheer scale of the global crisis, swearing that he will protect his newfound peaceful life at all costs. As his mind drifts back to his previous battles, Junho grimly recalls the monstrous threats he faced, regretting that he couldn't completely eradicate the shadows looming over the city. Somewhere in a deep, uncharted rift, a small rocky creature violently sneezes, completely unaware of the terrifying forces currently shifting around it. Instantly, a massive ancient demon lord seated in the dark abyssal depths freezes, a sudden terrifying chill running down its spine as it senses a cosmic threat. Next morning, the grand glass facade of the Central Exchange shines brightly, oblivious to the explosive confrontation brewing inside its heavily guarded halls. Inside, a bruised and anxious Yang Seola stands quietly as a smug senior colleague walks up, wearing a patronizing grin that instantly sets a tense tone. The arrogant colleague leans in close, her eyes dripping with malice as she begins probing into Seola's sudden recovery and her mysterious connection to a certain student. Seola's face flushes with anger as she frantically tries to deny the accusations, her voice trembling under the intense corporate pressure. The smug woman scoffs, openly mocking Seola's taste and cruelly labeling Ahn Junho as nothing more than a pathetic, worthless thief. Seola snaps, fiercely defending Junho's character, but the senior employee merely laughs, revealing that the powerful boss Wang has already launched a full-scale investigation into his background. She sneers, pointing out that a legendary fourth advancement powerhouse came looking for stolen gear, leaving absolutely no doubt about Junho's guilt. But before she can utter another insulting word, a suffocating murderous aura floods the room, freezing the smug woman in absolute paralyzing terror. Out of thin air, a jagged spike of dark energy crystallizes right beside her face as Junho calmly steps forward, apologizing with a chilling smile for eavesdropping on their little chat. The room falls into a dead, terrified silence as both women stare in complete shock at the young man who just materialized out of the shadows. Recovering her composure, the arrogant woman shrieks in rage, furiously accusing him of using illegal offensive magic inside the high-security exchange and threatening to call security. Terrified for his safety, Seola grabs Junho's arm and begs him to flee immediately, knowing the deadly consequences of defying the exchange's authority. She warns him that the corrupt higher-ups who run this place are ruthless monsters, and if they get their hands on him, he will never see the light of day again. Right on cue, the heavy doors burst open and Boss Wang himself strides in, flanked by a squad of heavily armed elite guards. Junho doesn't flinch, his eyes locking onto the corrupt manager with a cold, piercing intensity that commands absolute authority. Boss Wang sneers arrogantly, mocking Junho's calm demeanor and declaring that false charges or not, he is already a dead man walking. With a wave of his hand, the guards charge forward with blinding speed, determined to crush the insolent student where he stands. In one fluid motion, Junho reaches into his pocket and flashes a glittering gold embossed black card, asking if this is truly how they treat VIP guests. The sheer sight of the card sends a shockwave through the guards, forcing them to violently skid to a halt, tearing up the marble floor in their panic. Boss Wang's jaw drops in absolute paralyzed horror as he recognizes the legendary ultra-rare VIP black card that only the city's highest rulers possess. Junho flashes a smug, dangerous grin, silently thanking the former mayor for gifting him an item with such massive, undeniable political weight. Trembling with rage and confusion, Boss Wang screams, demanding to know how a worthless orphan could possibly possess such god-tier authority. Realizing he has severely overstepped, the terrified boss frantically pulls out his phone to call his superiors, desperately trying to undo his catastrophic mistake. Outside the sealed gates, an anxious crowd gathers as guards lock down the building, completely unaware that a young master is currently turning the entire central exchange upside down. The corrupt manager's panic phone call is met with cold fury as his superior demands to know why he was foolish enough to investigate the holder of a gold-embossed VIP card. Trembling with fear, the desperate manager stammers that it was a simple misunderstanding, completely terrified of how a mere student managed to secure the favor of Mayor Cha's legendary family, the founders of the entire exchange. His excuses are immediately drowned out by a deafening roar of absolute rage from the receiver, accusing him of single-handedly destroying years of carefully cultivated goodwill. With a violent slam of his fist, the outraged superior commands him to freeze right where he is, declaring that he is rushing to the exchange to handle this catastrophe personally. As the call goes dead, the stunned manager stands frozen in terror, his mind racing to understand the true terrifying depth of Junho's mysterious political influence. Realizing he has no way out of this nightmare, he desperately decides his only hope is to contact a legendary powerhouse who might be able to salvage the situation before it's too late. Meanwhile, in the quiet waiting room of the Central Exchange, Junho and Yang Seola sit together, waiting for the inevitable storm to crash through the doors. The silence is shattered as Mayor Cha Dong-myung himself bursts into the room alongside his personal guards, completely out of breath as they race to appease their VIP. Seola gasps in absolute disbelief, instantly recognizing the legendary mayor and the awe-inspiring high-level hunter flanking him, unable to fathom how Junho could possibly be on speaking terms with such legends. The newly arrived powerful figures turn their gazes toward the corner, their eyes blazing with lethal authority and cold fury at the staff who dared to threaten their esteemed guest. A suffocating aura of pure dread fills the room as the arrogant colleague and the corrupt manager immediately sink to the floor, instantly realizing they have doomed themselves. Sweating profusely and trembling, the manager mutters in absolute despair that they are completely ruined, the weight of their foolishness crushing any hope of survival. Wiping cold sweat from his brow, the desperate mayor pleads with Junho to accept their apology, but Junho remains cold and unyielding, refusing to spare monsters who show no real remorse. Seeing that Junho will not be swayed, the mayor turns his wrath on his own corrupt staff, roaring at them to pack their things and get out immediately. The two corrupt employees stare in horrified silence, their careers and lives shattered in an instant by the very authority they tried to abuse. Blinded by panic and fury, the manager violently lashes out at his arrogant colleague, blaming her entirely for the ruinous mess she dragged them into. Disgusted by the pathetic display, the mayor barks a final order to security to have them dragged out like trash, while Junho and his ally watch in silent amusement. With the trash cleared, a quiet and elegant tea service begins, the remaining staff working frantically to restore a sense of calm and luxury for their legendary guests. The mayor quietly notes the warmth in Junho's eyes when he looks at Seola, relieved that the young master's impression of the exchange isn't entirely ruined by this catastrophic incident. Watching him interact so casually with the highest rulers of the city, Seola is filled with a deep, overwhelming sense of admiration for the incredible powerhouse standing before her. Turning his attention to her, the mayor reassures Seola with a warm smile, promising that the exchange will fully support her career and protect her from any future threats. Flushing with gratitude and relief, Seola bows deeply, determined to do her absolute best to live up to this incredible life-changing opportunity. Once they are alone, Junho politely apologizes for dragging the mayor into his personal business, but the mayor quickly brushes it off, insisting that protecting Junho is equivalent to protecting the city itself. Hoping to secure even deeper ties, the mayor eagerly asks Junho if any of the rare items in the exchange's treasury caught his eye during his visit. A dangerous, calculated grin crosses Junho's face as he takes the opportunity to ask if they have ever heard of the legendary artifact known as the End Times Remains. The silver-haired warrior tilts his head in confusion, the name of this mysterious item drawing a blank even for a seasoned powerhouse of his caliber. Laughing it off with an innocent smile, Junho quickly claims he only saw the name online and was curious, successfully hiding his true intent from the prying eyes of the powerful. Later that night, in the quiet sanctuary of his room, Junho summons a glowing, magical text gifted to him by Yeojin, eager to see what secrets it holds. The book radiates a dense, crackling blue energy, revealing itself to be a powerful spirit extraction skill designed to temporarily restore vital energy during intense combat. With a surge of dark anticipation, Junho channels his shadow magic into the tome, wondering what terrifying, forbidden form the spell will take when fused with his absolute power. Magic ignites in a brilliant flash of cosmic energy, transforming the simple spell into a god-tier passive skill that converts the dark essence of the End Times Remains directly into raw stats. Reading the description, Junho rests his chin in his hand, realizing that the mysterious remains are the absolute key to unlocking his true power, yet he still has no clue where to find them. Letting out a tired yawn, he decides not to stress over it just yet, confident that the path to absolute strength will naturally reveal itself in due time. The following day, Mayor Cha stands before Junho and his loyal warrior in the bustling city center, offering a warm farewell and extending a formal invitation to visit Ondale City for a proper welcome. In an explosive burst of blinding light, the powerful mayor launches himself into the sky, leaving a spectacular streak of energy that leaves the onlookers below in absolute awe. Turning to his master, the warrior suggests they grab a bite to eat, to which Junho casually responds by inviting him over to his own temporary residence. Stepping up to the coordinates, they find themselves standing before a towering, pristine luxury villa bathed in the golden glow of the afternoon sun. Junho's eyes widen in sheer disbelief as they step inside the polished, gilded halls, marveling at the incredible scale of the residence the city gifted to his warrior. The warrior explains with cool indifference that the city grants absolute luxury to anyone of the 4th advancement or higher and offers to let Junho take the villa for himself. But laughing at the absurd offer, Junho declines, stating that he will simply work hard, save up, and buy the house next door when the time is right. The warrior immediately offers his own massive fortune to his master, but Junho pridefully turns it down, determined to build his own path without relying on handouts. A sharp, ambitious grin spreads across Junho's face as he calculates his stash of rare crystals, knowing he has more than enough wealth to buy a villa but must save them for the struggles ahead. Sinking into the plush sofa with a warm cup of tea, Junho lets out a sigh of pure content, finally enjoying a rare moment of peace amidst the chaos. The warrior points out that a world-class personal chef has already been assigned to the villa and is on his way, adding to the absolute convenience of their new stronghold. But their peaceful moment is instantly broken as a sudden, sharp vibration from the warrior's phone signals an incoming call of extreme importance. Answering the call with a cool expression, the warrior is greeted by Mayor Zhang Huiyel, who speaks with a tense, unusually hurried tone. Mayor warns him that a highly elite official investigation team has just arrived in the city to probe the recent dungeon anomalies, requesting the warrior's cooperation. Recognizing the massive threat this investigation poses to his master's secret leveling plans, the warrior calmly makes an excuse, stating he is far too busy to meet today. Though disappointed, the polite mayor agrees to reschedule for the coming days, entirely unaware that the powerhouses he is investigating are sitting right under his nose. Hanging up the phone, the warrior stares into space, his mind racing as he wonders what kind of dangerous high-level threats this new investigation team will bring to their doorstep. Shadow looms over the city's power structure, a ruthless, legendary investigator who refuses to believe a god-tier powerhouse would waste his time in a backwater place like Jinyu City. His eyes burn with dangerous skepticism, convinced that some elaborate fraud is being played, and he is determined to unmask the truth before this rogue hunter can disrupt the association's ironclad control. Inside the high-security conference room, the tension is thick enough to choke on as the region's top officials gather to discuss the baffling, unprecedented anomalies. The lead investigator demands answers, locking eyes with the panel and asking if a single soul present has actually met this mysterious savior face to face. The cold, brilliant data analyst shakes her head, confirming that the entity's identity remains a total ghost, leaving absolutely no trace in their official records. Aggravated by the lack of concrete evidence, the lead investigator sneers, questioning why the entire populace is worshipping a phantom as the sole savior of Jinyu City. The analyst explains calmly that during the catastrophic dungeon break, the entire event was halted instantly the moment the mutated boss monster was annihilated. But the ruthless investigator refuses to buy it, pointing out that every dungeon incident yielded wildly different damage patterns, making it impossible to confirm a single recurring protector. He presses harder, demanding to know where this self-proclaimed savior was when a devastating Monarch-class threat materialized in the other sectors. The analyst remains silent, unable to provide an answer while secret, forbidden truths weigh heavily on her mind. Deep down, she knows that their ally, Miss Ion, completely purged and fabricated every shred of database info related to Junho to keep his godlike presence hidden from the association's prying eyes. Suddenly, the heavy doors burst open as a panicked Dade delivers a crushing blow. The legendary hunter Yoon Doyoung has flatly refused to meet with them today. The investigator's face contorts with explosive fury, snarling at the sheer arrogance of rogue hunters who dare to ignore the association's absolute authority. Slamming his fist onto the table, he declares that he is seizing total control of this investigation, bypassing protocol to hunt down the truth himself. Out in the desolate wilderness, a heavy armored boot violently crushes a fallen branch, signaling the arrival of a predator entering forbidden territory. The station guards spin around in panic, their weapons raised as a towering, aggressive figure emerges from the heavy fog near the active dungeon portal. Flashing a highly arrogant, dangerous smile, the lead investigator waves him off, asserting his high-ranking authority to silence any objections. Demanding immediate entry to conduct a personal, unauthorized inspection, he forces the terrified guards to step aside and clear his path. Without a shred of fear, the investigator strides directly into the swirling purple vortex, eager to claim whatever forbidden power lies waiting inside. Stepping onto the ruined, blood-soaked ground of the dungeon, he marvels at the absolute devastation, realizing a force of unimaginable magnitude tore this place apart. As he kneels, he detects a lingering, highly concentrated trace of pure dark magic, realizing this incredible power dwarfs anything he has ever encountered. A manic, power-hungry grin stretches across his face as he throws his arms wide, absolutely thrilled at the prospect of harvesting this legendary cosmic essence. Dark, crackling energy begins to wrap around his heavy steel gauntlet as he forcefully channels the residual magic, desperate to make it his own. But the shadows twist violently, manifesting a terrifying multi-eyed demonic entity with rows of razor-sharp fangs and an aura of pure, suffocating malice. The investigator stands frozen in absolute shock as the Colossus looms over him, realizing too late that he has summoned a nightmare he cannot control. Overwhelmed by the raw, terrifying pressure of a true monarch-class beast, his terror turns into desperate, chaotic laughter as he screams that this godlike power will belong to him. Meanwhile, miles away at Yoondoyong's secure luxury villa, the quiet night air is suddenly thick with a strange, ominous static. Lounging on the sofa, Junho casually plays on his phone, advising his companion to keep a low profile and avoid drawing any unwanted attention. But his casual demeanor vanishes instantly as a sudden, high-priority system alert flashes, announcing that the legendary End Times remains have been detected nearby. A violent surge of cosmic energy crackles around his head as Junho feels an undeniable magnetic pull linking his soul directly to the source of the remains. His expression darkens into one of intense absolute focus as he realizes this is the exact key he needs to unlock his true god-tier status. Without a moment's hesitation, he leaps to his feet and throws on his coat, determined to claim his destiny before anyone else can intervene. Sensing the sudden shift in his master's aura, the loyal warrior steps into the hall, urgently asking where he is heading in such a rush. Junho casually waves him off, playfully ordering him to finish the video game match without losing his rank as he dashes out into the night. But on the dark, winding highway, vehicles speed through the night, completely unaware of the terrifying cosmic storm brewing just ahead. Tracking the signal on his phone, Junho tracks the precise coordinates, realizing the source is located deep within the notorious gloomy graveyard. But his heart skips a beat as he watches the tracking marker begin to move at an impossible, blistering speed. The remains are active and on the run. At the graveyard's dungeon entrance, a monstrous, multi-eyed spider beast emerges from the swirling abyss, instantly triggering a maximum security emergency broadcast. Elite guards tremble in sheer paralyzing terror, completely helpless against the suffocating pressure of the demonic titan standing before them. Horrifyingly, the arrogant investigator's faces fuse directly into the beast's carapace, his eyes wide with madness as he desperately begs for someone to save him from this living hell. Outside the perimeter, police barricades and emergency vehicles struggle to manage the chaotic traffic as a massive gridlock paralyzes the entire sector. Heavily armed patrol officers block the road, shouting warnings that the path ahead is entirely compromised by an active high-level threat. Stepping out of a taxi just before the barricade, Junho swiftly completes his payment, utterly unbothered by the growing panic around him. His purple eyes burn with cold, calculated precision as he prepares to bypass the blockade and confront the nightmare waiting in the fog. Deep in the woods, the fused monster shrieks in agonizing pain, the investigator's trapped soul screaming in vain as the beast begins its relentless march toward the city. Suddenly, three highly capable female hunters arrive on the scene, their eyes widening in absolute horror as the colossal abomination charges directly toward them. The lead huntress gasps, unable to process the horrifying reality of an association investigator being absorbed into a mutated high-level calamity. A massive explosive shockwave tears through the forest, obliterating the landscape and kicking up a blinding screen of dirt and debris. Desperate to save her team, the purple-haired healer channels her vital magic into her fallen ally, desperately trying to stabilize her fading life force. The battered analyst groans in agonizing pain, her vision blurring as she realizes they are completely outmatched and running out of time. The powerful gear Junho gave her has drastically cut her casting time, allowing her to protect her allies in the nick of time, but she knows that even their strongest forces are useless against a calamity of this scale. Catching her breath, the healer urgently asks about the mutated horror, only to receive a spine-chilling answer. The beast has bypassed their defense lines and is charging straight toward the city. Panic grips her chest as she realizes the mayor's urgent request for backup from the legendary hunter Yoon Do-young might not arrive in time to prevent an absolute bloodbath. Her battered companion coughs, pointing out that Do-young cannot hope to handle this monarch-class disaster alone, unless the godlike figure backing him finally decides to step into the light. Suddenly, a devastating slash of pure crimson energy tears through the battlefield, signaling the arrival of an overwhelming force. The colossal, multi-eyed demonic titan screeches, unleashing a terrifying shockwave of pure malice that threatens to crush the sanity of anyone standing in its way. From the top of the beast's head, the trapped investigator desperately babbles in sheer terror, realizing too late that his greed has birthed a nightmare beyond human comprehension. Standing directly in the pathway of this colossal abomination is Junho, completely unbothered and utterly calm as he locks eyes with the rampaging horror. Infuriated by his absolute defiance, the mutated demon raises its massive razor-sharp scythe claw, ready to slice this arrogant human to pieces. A blinding explosion of kinetic pressure erupts as the beast brings down its attack, determined to wipe his existence off the face of the earth. Yet the earth shatters violently beneath his feet, but Junho remains completely motionless, his stance unbreakable. Refusing to accept defeat, the monster channels all of its dark energy into a single, highly concentrated spear of destruction targeted straight at his head. The impact is cataclysmic, unleashing a violent shockwave of pure darkness that threatens to vaporize the entire forest. But a brilliant hexagonal shield instantly materializes around Junho, effortlessly absorbing the catastrophic blow without leaving a single scratch on his armor. The Colossus freezes in absolute paralyzing horror as its eyes widen, realizing it is facing a monster far more terrifying than itself. Junho's purple eyes glow with a cold, terrifying light as he decides it is time to end this pathetic struggle once and for all. Instantly, a high-priority system prompt flashes in front of him, revealing that he had to get close to the core for the system's hidden trigger to activate. A massive grin stretches across his face as he reads the alert: a permanent, legendary stat boost of 100 points to every single one of his attributes. But a sudden, violent surge of foreign cosmic energy floods his mind, indicating he has absorbed something far more complex than mere raw power. Just then, Yoon Do-young finally arrives on the scene, screaming in absolute shock as he asks his master what on earth just happened. He is answered by a colossal, blinding explosion of light as the massive demonic entity is utterly obliterated.
The Titan collapses and dissolves into nothingness, its terrifying presence entirely erased from the world.
Through the scattering fragments of space and time, Junho steps forward like an untouchable god, completely unfazed by the devastation. Hidden memories of past, ancient battles flash before him, confirming his absolute authority over the dark forces. But a chilling realization sets in as he glimpses a horned, elite threat lurking in the deep abyss, waiting for its turn to strike. Shrugging off the massive victory, Junho casually tells his warrior that he simply ran into a minor nuisance and took care of it on his way. Do-young stares at the defeated investigator who has been separated from the beast and now lies unconscious, completely stripped of his stolen power. He's left utterly speechless, unable to comprehend how his master completely annihilated a monarch-class disaster without leaving a single trace of magical residue behind. Patting his loyal warrior on the shoulder, Junho happily dumps the tedious cleanup duties on him and decides to head back to the villa. In a blinding flash of cosmic speed, Junho vanishes into thin air, leaving a streak of light behind him. Do-young's jaw drops as he screams in utter disbelief, wondering how a supposed mage-class hunter can move faster than an elite assassin. He shakes his head, realizing that trying to measure his master's god-tier abilities by human standards is a fool's errand. Days later, inside a heavily guarded interrogation cell, the disgraced investigator sits in chains, sobbing as he confesses to his crimes. He explains how his insatiable greed drove him to slip into dungeons, harvesting forbidden dark magic in a desperate bid to claim supreme power. But the chaotic magic proved too volatile, mutating his body and merging him with the demonic entity before he could even control it. Hearing the full report, the ecstatic mayor pumps his fists, overjoyed that their mysterious powerhouse has once again saved Jinyu City from total destruction. Beside him, the analyst smiles quietly, satisfied that their fabricated cover stories work perfectly to keep the association's eyes off Junho. The purple-haired healer beams with relief, knowing that the legendary savior of their city is the very person who changed her life. Turning to Do-young, the curious mayor asks if the elite hunter has ever managed to meet this legendary savior face to face. Do-young maintains a perfectly calm, cool expression, claiming he was fortunate enough to cross paths with the savior just once. The two female hunters gasp in absolute shock, their hearts racing at the thought of being so close to someone who met the myth himself. The desperate mayor practically begs Do-young for an introduction, promising to grant the savior any reward he desires if he agrees to stay in Jinyu City. Do-young gently declines, telling the mayor that the great master is incredibly humble and absolutely despises standing out. Back in their luxury stronghold, Do-young chuckles over a warm cup of tea, incredibly pleased that they successfully pinned everything on a phantom savior. He reassures his master that with absolutely zero physical evidence, the high-level investigators will never be able to trace the anomalies back to him. Meanwhile, the mayor facepalms in deep disappointment, lamenting his inability to recruit such an unmatched god-tier ally. But Do-young leaves them with a spark of hope, stating that the savior already has someone close to him in Jinyu City and is keeping a watchful eye on them. The analyst's eyes narrow as she pieces the clues together, her sharp intellect pointing directly back to the mysterious teenager she met during the dungeon break. The healer whispers in awe, completely convinced that this legendary powerhouse must be an ancient veteran far older than young Junho. Safe and sound inside his high-rise apartment, Ahn Junho rests easy, entirely unaware of the wild theories brewing about his true identity as he prepares for the greater struggles ahead. The steam of the heart shower swirling around him does nothing to ease the weight on Junho's mind as he pieces together the horrifying truth of the end times. The massive, chaotic remnants left behind are nothing more than the shattered pieces of a long-dead dungeon demon king. A cold shudder runs down his spine as he realizes the chaotic visions flashing behind his eyelids are actually raw, unfiltered fragments of the Demon King's own memories from when the beast was still breathing. He tries to laugh it off, muttering that he has absolutely no intention of ascending a demonic throne, questioning what use he could possibly have for such corrupt and forbidden power. But then a sudden, sharp realization strikes him like lightning, freeze-framing his thoughts as a brilliant, dangerous idea begins to take shape in his mind. The memories paint a devastating picture of the future dungeons constantly evolving, growing infinitely stronger with every passing moment, threatening to wipe out entire civilizations the second a single defense line crumbles.
To make matters worse, humanity's current hunter system is completely underdeveloped, leaving them with a critical shortage of high-tier defenders capable of standing against catastrophic high-level threats. Throwing a towel over his shoulders, Junho grumbles about the foul taste the Demon King's memories have left in his mouth, knowing all too well that if things continue at this rate, humanity is doomed to absolute extinction. He realizes that if he can collect more of these ancient remains and decipher the hidden secrets within them, he might be able to share crucial tactical intelligence to save other worlds, though a single mistake could trigger a massive panic.
His purple eyes narrow with absolute, calculated focus as he resolves to tread this dangerous path with extreme caution, knowing he is playing a high-stakes game with the fate of the whole world on the line. Suddenly, his phone buzzes, and a genuine smile breaks across his face as he answers, immediately greeted by an energetic, incredibly cheerful voice on the other end. It is Ha Yunseo, bursting with excitement as she announces her absolute success in clearing a brutal S-rank advancement quest, unlocking the legendary Blade Shadow hidden class, and demanding he join her for a celebratory feast. Junho chuckles softly, teasingly pointing out that he has never once in his life turned down a free meal, matching her bright energy with his own. Yunseo laughs, promising to send over the coordinates of the restaurant before hanging up, her heart racing with anticipation for the night ahead. Stepping out of the Grand Training Sanctuary, Yunseo is instantly greeted by her waiting party members, who have gathered at the base of the steps to welcome their leader back. The air explodes with colorful confetti and cheers as the team celebrates her monumental achievement, completely in awe of her lightning-fast progression. Clapping with a lazy, polite smile, the party's elite mage offers his congratulations, though a subtle hint of jealousy flickers deep within his cold eyes at her unmatched growth. He steps forward smoothly, boasting that he has already booked a table at the most exclusive, high-end restaurant in the city to celebrate her achievement in style. But Yunseo dismisses him without a second thought, flatly stating she already has plans tonight and telling them to go on and celebrate without her. The mage's smile falters, his annoyance showing as he tries to pressure her into postponing her plans, but Yunseo's cold final refusal cuts him off instantly. Without looking back, she strides confidently across the crosswalk, leaving her stunned party standing in the shadows of the training center. Bitter resentment twists the mage's face as he snarls to himself, accusing her of growing arrogant and distant the very moment she achieved her new power. The pink-haired healer quickly defends her, urging him to stop speaking ill of their friend, fully believing that Yunseo must have a deeply important reason for her absence. Turning back with a dark, mocking expression, the mage asks if they aren't tired of constantly running themselves ragged just to catch a glimpse of Yunseo's shadow. He points out the harsh, undeniable truth. With her new S-rank hidden job, the power gap between her and the rest of the party is only going to grow until they are completely obsolete. Healer's heart sinks as the grim reality of his words sets in, a creeping fear taking root that their beloved leader might soon walk a path they can never hope to follow. Meanwhile, Yunseo continues walking forward, completely oblivious to the fracturing trust behind her as she heads toward her meeting with Junho. As evening falls over the bustling city, the vibrant neon lights of a cozy local restaurant flicker to life, casting a warm glow over the pavement. Junho's eyes practically sparkle with pure childlike joy as a massive sizzling plate of freshly grilled meat is placed on their table. He laughs happily, stuffing his face and declaring that hanging out with her is the absolute best way to experience the finest food the city has to offer. Smiling warmly, Yunseo pauses to thank him, admitting that the mysterious Vanguard's badge he gifted her was the sole reason she managed to break through her limits. Chewing happily, Junho asks if the badge truly did trigger a hidden class advancement, his mind spinning with tactical calculations. A sudden intense seriousness washes over him as he connects this to the Demon King's memories, the revelation that human classes are currently incomplete and that these badges are the key to unlocking their true optimized potential. Curious, Yunseo asks where on earth he managed to find such an incredibly rare and powerful artifact, but Junho simply laughs it off with a mouthful of food. Her expression softens into a look of deep longing, wishing these badges were something she could easily buy so she could help her left-behind party members bridge the gap. Looking at him with earnest concern, she urges Junho to use any future badges on himself, emphasizing that the world is far too dangerous for him to remain unawakened. Junho dismisses her worries with a lazy grin, joking that leveling is way too much of a hassle and that she should just act as his personal bodyguard instead, earning a flustered shout from her. But mid-laugh, Yunseo suddenly winces in agonizing pain, her face pale as a violent surge of dark, unstable energy flares around her shoulder. Junho's playful expression instantly vanishes, his gaze sharpening to ice as he demands to know what is wrong. Clutching her arm, Yunseo tries to play it down, claiming it is just a minor wound she picked up during the chaotic S-rank trial. Junho reacts with disbelief, his voice dropping as he asks why she would ever delay treatment for a wound carrying such a volatile magical signature. Looking at her strained smile, he begins to realize that the S-rank advancement trials are far more brutal and unforgiving than anyone in the association dares to admit. Before he can question her further, a loud, obnoxious ringtone shatters the tense silence as Junho's phone begins to vibrate violently on the wooden table.
Answering the call with a frown, Junho is met with a cold, demanding voice on the other end, instantly putting him on high alert. The mysterious caller speaks with absolute malice, completely ignoring pleasantries as they demand to know exactly where Junho obtained the powerful Vanguard's badge. Yunseo watches him with wide, anxious eyes, instantly sensing the dangerous shift in his demeanor as the atmosphere in the restaurant turns freezing cold. Pulling the phone away, Junho casually tells her that some arrogant fool with a massive attitude problem is demanding answers about her secret upgrade. Yunseo's heart stops in sheer panic, her mind racing as she realizes that someone has been actively tracking her advancement, and they've somehow connected the anomaly directly to Junho. Unbothered by the threat, Junho casually tells her to ignore the distraction and keep eating, completely ready to brush off the mysterious danger. But the moment he cuts the connection, the phone immediately starts ringing again, a blocked caller ID flashing on the screen like an ominous warning. Junho answers with an expression of pure, unadulterated boredom, only to be met by a furious roar on the other end, threatening him with absolute ruin for daring to hang up on a power that could crush him in an instant. Sensing Yunseo's worried gaze, Junho suppresses his rising anger, resolving to keep his mouth shut and handle the threat quietly so she won't be dragged into danger. With a cold, decisive press of his thumb, he cuts the line, refusing to give the arrogant caller another second of his time as he prepares to enjoy his evening in peace. Stepping out of the restaurant into the cool night air, Junho pats his stomach with a satisfied grin, completely forgetting the threatening call in favor of a fantastic meal. Enso turns to him with a mix of gratitude and concern, asking if he is absolutely sure he doesn't want her to walk him home, still uneasy about the mysterious phone call. As night deepens over the city, Junho arrives back at his high-rise apartment, completely unaware that the danger has already crossed his threshold. He slides his key into the lock, the quiet click of the deadbolt echoing in the empty hallway as a strange, chilling sensation creeps up his spine. Swinging the door open, Junho's eyes widen in absolute disbelief as his home comes into view, his usual calm instantly shattered by a wave of pure fury. His once pristine apartment has been completely ransacked, shelves shattered, books torn, and clothes dumped in a chaotic mess on the floor. Standing amidst the wreckage is an arrogant, smug intruder, idly flipping through Junho's personal things and mocking him for finally showing up. Junho's purple eyes turn dangerously cold as he immediately recognizes the voice, asking if this is the pathetic coward who dared to threaten him over the phone. The blonde invader tosses a booklet aside with a cruel laugh, sneering that Junho should have listened when they were asking nicely instead of forcing them to get their hands dirty. He sneers at Junho, calling him nothing but unawakened trash and demanding to know why a low-tier nobody thinks he can disrespect his superiors. Suddenly, the air behind Junho ripples as a hidden assassin drops from above like a falling shadow, aiming a lethal strike directly at the teenager's exposed neck. With frighteningly casual reflexes, Junho simply tilts his head, letting the deadly blade slice through empty air as the assassin's eyes widen in sheer panic. Before the killer can even register his failure, Junho drives a devastating, bone-shattering fist directly into his chest, unleashing a shockwave of raw physical power. The brutal impact instantly paralyzes the assassin, his weapon slipping from his lifeless fingers as the overwhelming force of the blow destroys his defenses. Coughing up a spray of blood, the elite killer collapses to the floor, completely neutralized in a single, effortless motion as Junho calmly adjusts his collar. The smug smile completely vanishes from the blonde leader's face, replaced by a pale look of pure, unadulterated horror at how easily his top hunter was crushed. Smiling thinly, Junho mockingly repeats the leader's words back to him, warning the trembling intruder that if he wants to question a true powerhouse, he had better learn some manners first. Sweat pours down the leader's face as his mind races in panic, realizing the intelligence reports were dead wrong. There is absolutely no way this monster is a weak, unawakened civilian. Trembling with fear, the leader reaches for his hidden crescent blade, his mind screaming in disbelief that a supposed mage could take down a high-tier assassin barehanded. Unbothered, Junho marvels at his own newly enhanced strength, realizing the massive stat boosts from his achievements allow him to effortlessly dominate physical combat without even casting a single spell. His sharp gaze locks onto the blonde leader, tracking his every frantic heartbeat as the desperate hunter realizes he is completely outmatched. Terrified, the leader screams to his surviving ally that they need to abort the mission immediately, spinning around to make a desperate run for the balcony. With a panic leap, the leader vaults over the high-rise railing, launching himself into the open night air to escape the terrifying monster inside. But a hand moves faster than the eye can follow, slicing through the air with perfect, unerring precision. Before the leader can even begin his descent, Junho's iron grip clamps onto his ankle, halting his escape with terrifying, effortless strength. Dangling the screaming leader upside down over the dizzying drop of the high-rise balcony, Junho casually informs him that he isn't going anywhere until he cleans up the disaster he created. The leader whines in terror as he looks down at the street below, completely broken by the casual cruelty of his captor. Veins bulging on his forehead, Junho angrily demands absolute compensation, furious that his favorite bookshelves were ruined in their pathetic ambush. Stripped of all their gear and beaten to a pulp, the two invaders whimper on the floor, pleading that they have already handed over every single item of value they possess.
Crossing his arms, Junho's gaze drops to freezing temperatures as he demands to know exactly who sent them to ransack his home. Sobbing in pain, the blonde leader immediately confesses, revealing that Jo Sung-hoon of the Lion of Purge Guild ordered them to steal information about the legendary Vanguard badge. The name instantly rings a bell, and Junho smiles darkly as he connects the dots. The arrogant elite mage from Yunseo's party was behind this petty scheme all along. A sinister violet glow flares in Junho's eyes as he decides to retaliate, choosing this perfect moment to test a terrifying dark magic spell he has never used before. He conjures the ancient forbidden grimoire of mind distortion, activating the terrifying spell Soul Hijack, a dark magic that consumes willpower to completely seize a target's mind. Screams of agony fill the room as purple flames erupt from the intruder's eyes, their consciousness being violently rewritten and replaced by Junho's absolute will. Meanwhile, in a dark city alley, Jo Sung-hoon walks confidently with his co-conspirator, suggesting they ditch the rest of the team to celebrate on their own terms. He boastfully admits to sending a lethal hit squad to deal with Ahn Junho, planning to force the teenager to hand over the badge by showing him a fate worse than death. His nervous accomplice sweat drops, expressing genuine worry about what might happen to them if Yunseo ever uncovers their betrayal. Sung-hoon scoffs in anger, declaring he couldn't care less and refusing to let Yunseo hoard such a god-tier class advancement item all to herself. But the accomplice nervously scratches his head, pointing out that Sung-hoon's original plan for the S-rank advancement quest had gone completely off the rails. Flashbacks reveal the horrifying truth. Sung-hoon had intentionally unleashed a brutal dungeon boss to terrify Yunseo, planning to sweep in, save her, and play the heroic savior. He grinds his teeth in sheer frustration, still unable to comprehend how Yunseo managed to break her limits and slaughter the boss entirely on her own despite her severe injuries. Suddenly, a cold wind sweeps through the alley as a dark, imposing silhouette emerges from the shadows, instantly putting both mages on high alert. It is the blonde assassin leader, but his eyes glow with a sinister, unnatural light, his entire demeanor completely devoid of human emotion. Believing his plan was a success, Sung-hoon demands to know if they managed to secure the valuable badge and eliminate the target. But as the assassin steps closer without saying a word, a creeping dread settles over Sung-hoon and his partner, sensing that something is horribly wrong. Losing his temper, Sung-hoon grabs the assassin by the face, shaking him violently and screaming at him for acting so incredibly bizarre and refusing to answer. But before he can even blink, the hijacked puppet strikes with lethal, terrifying speed, leaving Sung-hoon to realize too late that he has unleashed a demon he can never hope to control. Before Jo Sung-hoon can even register the shifting air, a flash of violent energy tears through the darkness, striking with lethal intent. Blood sprays through the narrow alleyway as both conspirators collapse under the sudden, brutal impact, their smug confidence instantly shattered by agonizing pain. Hijacked assassin moves like an unfeeling machine, lifting the choking mages off their feet with terrifying, unnatural strength. Through the eyes of his mindless puppet, Junho's icy resolve burns with a terrifying promise: no one who dares threaten Yunseo will ever walk away alive. Dark, twisting magic erupts from the shadow's hands, coiling around the desperate conspirators as they shriek in sheer helpless horror. The cold voice of the master speaks through his thrall, turning their own cruel words back on them as the agonizing dark magic begins to rewrite their very existence. A towering geyser of dark, destructive energy explodes into the night sky, completely swallowing their screams in a vortex of absolute annihilation. Within seconds, their physical forms crumble into nothingness, leaving behind nothing but fading purple embers drifting silently into the dark. Back in his ruined living room, Junho sits calmly in the quiet, satisfied that the complete eradication of his enemies leaves absolutely zero evidence for anyone to find. Looking out over the glittering city skyline, he realizes that while he does not fear these pathetic ambushes, he cannot waste his time guarding his home around the clock. A cold shudder runs through him as he recalls the legendary Demon King's ancient forbidden recipes. It is a miracle the intruders never laid eyes on these god-tier formulas. Stretching his limbs, Junho decides to temporarily relocate to a high-security luxury villa owned by an incredibly powerful ally. Upon hearing of the brazen assault, Do-young boils with righteous fury, fiercely vowing to hunt down and tear apart whoever dared to lay a finger on his master. But Junho waves off the anger with absolute calm, redirecting his powerful ally's attention toward finding a trustworthy elite alchemist instead. Do-young looks on in stunned confusion, wondering what world-changing scheme his master is cooking up that requires such specialized expertise. While Do-young knows of an exceptionally skilled master of alchemy, his ties to a massive prying guild make him far too risky for Junho's covert plans. Junho's eyes flash with ancient knowledge as he remembers the sheer legendary power of the potions described in the Demon King's memories, potions far beyond this world's capabilities. He must tread with absolute caution, knowing that leaking these legendary formulas would draw a horde of greedy pests far worse than the ones he just incinerated. Agreeing to keep a quiet lookout, Do-young promises to search his private networks for an independent expert who can keep a monumental secret.
Just as they wrap up their meeting, Junho's phone buzzes, and a familiar voice on the other end delivers a sudden piece of incredibly convenient news. It is Yunseo, eager to help her savior by introducing her party's brilliant alchemist, who happens to detest the very same guild mages Junho just dealt with. Hearing that the arrogant Jo Sung-hoon is connected to this alchemist's past, Junho smirks, knowing that the greedy mage won't be bothering anyone ever again. When Yunseo curiously asks why he suddenly needs a master of potion making, Junho casually lies, claiming he just stumbled upon some old papers while tidying up. Yunseo's voice drips with playful skepticism, instantly recognizing his trademark excuse of mysteriously finding world-tier relics just lying around his house. Laughing sheepishly to brush off her doubts, Junho happily accepts her offer, eager to finally put his legendary recipes to the test. Soon after, Junho arrives at a state-of-the-art laboratory, politely introducing himself to the legendary alchemist who could unlock his next massive power spike. The brilliant Yoon Hae-il welcomes him with professional curiosity, extending a hand to receive the mysterious formulas that the teenager claims to possess. Outside the lab, Mijin throws a childish tantrum, utterly furious that her overprotective brother kicked her out of the room just as things were getting interesting. Inside, Hale's eyes scan the parchment in deep concentration, his analytical mind struggling to comprehend the bizarre and incredibly complex brewing methods. With a straight face, Junho drops a theoretical bombshell, claiming the ancient formula is designed to double all experience gains by a massive 100%. Hale's jaw drops in utter disbelief, his eyes widening as his entire understanding of potion making is violently shaken to its core. Pushing up his glasses in a frantic sweat, the alchemist stammers that even the most expensive, fortune-costing potions in the world max out at a mere 40% boost. Smiling calmly, Junho plays dumb, claiming he isn't entirely sure of its true potency and simply wanted an expert to verify the results. Driven by wild scientific curiosity, Hale rushes toward his private testing chamber upstairs, determined to brew a prototype and see the truth for himself. He shouts back down the hall, ordering his sister to keep their esteemed guest entertained while he conducts the groundbreaking experiment. Downstairs, the atmosphere is bright and cheerful as Yunseo and Mijin share a laugh with Junho, completely unaware of the chaos brewing right above them. Suddenly, a violent rumbling explosion shakes the entire building, instantly cutting their laughter short as smoke begins to seep from the ceiling. Terrified by the sudden blast, the girls exchange panicked glances, fearing that Hale's reckless curiosity has finally blown up his own laboratory. Without wasting a single second, the trio races up the stairs to investigate the source of the destructive rumble. As they reach the upper landing, a frantic, squishy blue creature comes flying out of the smoke-filled doorway in a state of absolute terror. Mijin gasps in horror, immediately recognizing the delicate test subject that her brother uses for his most volatile magical trials. Before the creature can escape, a sudden, supercharged blast of flames streaks through the air, vaporizing it in an instantaneous burst of light. The group freezes in absolute shock, their eyes wide as they witness a raw display of destructive magical power they never expected from a peaceful alchemist. Emerging from the swirling ash and smoke, Hale lets out a crazed, ecstatic scream of pure victory, his voice echoing with manic joy. Sparks of vibrant yellow magic dance on his fingertips as he triumphantly declares that the legendary potion is a flawless, undeniable success. Yunseo and Mijin look on with massive question marks floating over their heads, completely baffled by the alchemist's sudden hyperactive transformation. Ignoring his sister entirely, Hale marches straight toward Junho with a burning look of fanatical reverence in his eyes. Grabbing Junho's shoulders with trembling hands, he frantically explains that just a single drop of the miraculous brew instantly doubled his magic's destructive output. A dark, satisfied smile spreads across Junho's face, realizing that the first of the Demon King's legendary formulas has just been successfully brought to life. Fueled by the overwhelming rush of his newly amplified power, Hale proudly unleashes a blistering fireball ready to help Junho mass-produce a potion that will rewrite the power balance of the entire world. The laboratory is in absolute ruins, but Yoon Hae-il couldn't care less, celebrating his chaotic triumph while his furious sister screams at him for destroying his own pristine workspace. The shocking truth leaves both Yunseo and Mijin completely frozen in place, their minds unable to comprehend the sheer reality-bending existence of a flawless 100% experience boost potion. Junho stands silently, a calm, knowing smirk playing on his lips as he watches their minds fracture under the weight of his ancient, otherworldly knowledge. Panicking at the sheer noise, Hale frantically gestures for everyone to keep quiet, terrified that a secret of this magnitude might leak to the greedy ears waiting outside. Leaning in with intense focus, the alchemist demands to know Junho's ultimate plan, fully aware that releasing this god-tier item will bring in a fortune beyond their wildest dreams. But Junho remains silent, his gaze turning incredibly sharp as he calculates his next move in a world where power is the only currency that matters. Suddenly, a sharp vibration cuts through the tense silence of the room, drawing all eyes to the sudden intrusion. Junho pulls out his glowing phone, his expression shifting as a massive influx of messages begins to flood his screen.
The class group chat is in a state of absolute panic, filled with desperate complaints about overcrowded dungeons, empty shelves, and the terrifying scarcity of basic experience potions. He rests his chin in his hand, a cold, calculating spark igniting in his eyes as he realizes the massive market gap he now holds in the palm of his hand. With absolute clarity, Junho announces his decision. He will empower his inner circle first, giving his closest allies an untouchable lead before a single bottle ever hits the public market. Mijin's eyes light up with manic joy as she eagerly points to herself, desperately hoping she has earned a spot on his highly coveted list of trusted allies. Bursting with excitement, she proudly declares that she and Yunseo will serve as his elite bodyguards, completely ignoring her brother's exasperated sighs. But Junho's mind is already steps ahead, knowing that once this miraculous elixir is revealed, ruthless pests like Jo Sung-hoon will swarm like vultures to steal it. He must build an invincible faction of his own, ensuring that anyone who tries to double-cross him will be utterly crushed before they can even draw a weapon. Recalling another heavy hitter from Yunseo's party, Junho decides to extend the offer to their elite berserker, Baekhyung-ho. The girls gasp in pure relief, thrilled that their close friend will finally have the power boost he needs to secure his future. With Kyung-ho's brutal strength and fierce loyalty, Junho knows he is securing a cornerstone for his unstoppable new alliance. Eager for more revolutionary knowledge, Hale leans in closer, breathlessly asking if Junho possesses even more of these legendary recipes. Junho calmly hands over the remaining ancient sheets, watching as the alchemist's eyes scan the complex characters in total silence. Cold sweat breaks across Hale's face as he realizes the ingredients are entirely alien, requiring a brewing level far beyond anything his current rank can achieve. Junho expected as much. Recipes from the legendary Demon King's world were never going to be simple, but even a few basic brews will be more than enough to shake the foundations of this world. Seizing the momentum, Yunseo suggests they put the first batch to the test immediately, rallying the group for an ultimate hunting expedition. Though Junho groans at the sudden prospect of getting dragged into a public dungeon, Yunseo reassures him that her guild's elite connections will bypass all bureaucratic red tape. Before he can even object, the group enthusiastically sealed the plan, scheduling their game-changing raid for the upcoming Monday. When Monday finally arrives, the morning sun beats down on the city streets, carrying an underlying tension of the impending storm. Standing patiently by the roadside with his gear, Junho answers his phone, receiving word that his allies are nearing the rendezvous point. Within moments, a rumbling high school bus speeds down the asphalt, carrying the rest of his academy classmates to the designated training grounds. Peering out the window, a few of his arrogant classmates spot Junho standing alone, instantly whispering about his presence. The bus erupts in mocking laughter as the elitist students jeer, writing Junho off as a pathetic loser who would immediately perish the moment he stepped foot inside a real dungeon. The vehicle roars away in a cloud of dust, leaving Junho completely unfazed as he slides his phone back into his pocket, his mind focused on a completely different level of power. Meanwhile, at the dungeon entrance, a massive, swirling purple rift crackles with volatile magic, drawing a vast crowd of eager hunters. As the school bus finally unloads, the students groan in disappointment, staring at the endless sea of people blocking the entrance. Their guide delivers the grim news. Because of the extreme overcrowding, their low-ranking class will have to wait at least 2 agonizing hours before getting a turn. She reminds them to be grateful they even secured an early slot, as lower-tier classes like theirs are always treated as second-class citizens in the hunting world. Suddenly, a stunned silence falls over the crowd as a highly geared, imposing group strides forward, with Junho walking casually right alongside the legendary Ha Yunseo. The bystanders watch in utter shock as the guards immediately bow, waving Junho's elite party straight through the gates without making them wait a single second. The Academy Guide explains with cold reality, Junho is accompanied by the legendary Lion of Purge Guild, heading straight for the highly dangerous deeper layers where ordinary students dare not tread. The arrogant classmates burn with intense, humiliating jealousy, screaming in rage at how a supposed loser could ever get special treatment from the nation's elite. But amid the chaotic shouting, a dark, menacing silhouette looms over them, coldly demanding confirmation if the girl who just entered was indeed the legendary Ha Yunseo. Terrified by the stranger's suffocating aura, the classmate stammers out a fearful affirmation. Behind the stranger, a group of terrifying, heavily armed warriors steps forward, their massive weapons radiating a crushing, unnatural pressure. Clad in pitch-black armor, their menacing leader smiles coldly, satisfied that his deadly target has walked straight into his waiting trap. The sinister hunting party strides silently toward the portal, ready to unleash absolute carnage within the depths of the dungeon. Unaware of the danger, the loudmouth student snaps in anger at their arrogant attitude, only to be instantly silenced by his terrified classmate. With trembling eyes, she warns him to watch his tongue, revealing that the monsters who just passed are not ordinary hunters. Leading the terrifying group is the ruthless rank 4 newcomer Jang Gale, a warrior of unmatched lethality.
Flanked by the devastating muscle of rank 3 newcomer Kang Cholung, their brute force is enough to level entire Aries. And spearheading their deadly hunt is none other than the monstrous, crimson-eyed rank 2 prodigy himself, Kwon Ju-won, setting the stage for a brutal clash of titans inside the dark abyss.